morning and welcome to, I suppose I should say it again. They tell me I keep cutting it off. Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am, in fact, Donna Brandenburg, and it is the 27th day of August, 2024, and welcome to our show. I hope you're having a great day today. It's been pretty hot here in Michigan. Yesterday it was a little rough on all of the farm animals because it was hot and it was close. So watch your animals today and keep your eyes out for your neighbors. And with that said, I'm going to bring on Mr. Tater. How are you?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Well, for our first hour is John Tater with Lawful Defense. Second hour is Courtenay Turner with Real History. And I've got a special guest on today at 11. His name is Eric White. And I'm kind of looking forward to that interview today. So what are we talking about today, sir?
Well, I'd like to kind of cover the court system and the immunity charge and what it needs to do what do you need to do to take something to court to sue a public functionary.
And yeah, let's talk about, because we were talking before we got on today. A lot of people are afraid to go into court because it's a mystery, right? And they don't think they're going to get anywhere with suing public functionaries. But we need to push through that and figure it out, because we just sitting here twiddling our thumbs isn't doing anything. So we actually do need to get moving. And the only thing I'm going to say is I did in fact file a lawsuit yesterday, which is going to be interesting. That's all I'm going to say about it, because I'm waiting to serve said parties, and once I do that, then I'll publish it. But I'm kind of excited about it, John. I felt really empowered going in there and learning the process, and I think it's a worthy to go through just to figure the process out. And as you said, we're going to make mistakes along the way, but we're never going to do anything if we don't jump into this.
Well, that part I agree with you. If you're not involved, if you've not been in a court situation, then you have no idea what's going on. And this is like a secondary thing to learn and understand, because, I've never been in court. Once you get to court, you understand how the courts function, and especially in Michigan, where they are all corrupt. I don't know of a court system and or a judge that follows the law. I don't know of one. I've been in front of a whole bunch of judges. And so far as I'm concerned, both in the state and federal level, they're all corrupt. So
they're not working for us. They don't care about us. It's all about padding their own retirement accounts and getting reelected. And
it's about saving the system.
Saving the system, protecting each other.
Saving the system that they are involved in and that they are members of. And that's the bar, and the bar, which basically controls attorneys and judges and keeps them all in line to be in control of the system. And that's what it's all about. And if you don't understand that, then you get in front of a judge and you plead your case and you get thrown out and you say, what the heck happened? I was right. Well, you didn't do it properly, or you gave them an escape clause, which a lot of people do just because they don't know the system and they don't know how to get away with it. And even if you don't know, or if you know all their possible rat holes that they can jump through, they can still find one, or they'll still do one, or they'll still break the law, because they are there to protect the system. They're not there to help. They're not there for justice. Let's put it that way. They're there to protect their own turf, basically.
Well, when the Supreme Court of Michigan turned down my case when I got illegally removed from the ballot, which was proved in federal court, they were just a bunch of cowards. Filed there and said, we don't have jurisdiction.
No, that's the greatest hole that they greatest rat hole they jump into. We don't have jurisdiction.
Yeah. Well, then if you don't have jurisdiction and you can't do your job, then you need to vacate the office.
I have a judge that I'm suing, Yonkers. He hasn't gotten the lawsuit yet, but it's coming. It'd be very soon, Mr. Yonkers, if you're listening. You might be having a nice Thanksgiving or Christmas present coming to you. Maybe before then, I hope. Maybe Halloween, that would be good for you.
Well, I tell you, the service on mine should be pretty epic. So next week we'll talk about this lawsuit that I filed. And I think that everybody that I know that's filing pro se, it's actually working. That the courts actually like people apparently that are filing pro se, and they're a little kinder to them, because Jeff Bongiorno down in Florida, he got his dismissed without prejudice, but the judge told him what he did wrong, basically, or they said, this is what you did wrong. It gave him enough reason so that he can come back and take another swipe at it. So that's what he's doing down there.
That's called Haynes versus Kerner. That's a Supreme Court case that says that the judge is supposed to help the pro se. So that judge at least follows some of the law.
Can you send me that lawsuit?
You have it.
I have that one. Okay.
It's in our bag of tricks.
It's in our bag of tricks. Haynes versus
Kerner.
Okay.
If you don't have it, I'll send it to you. But I know I've been sending that one out too.
Well, I tell you what, it's like I've got a file. I've got a John file, John's wisdom file, right? So I just got to make sure that I saved everything that you sent through email to me too, because therein is a little bit of the problem. You know, if I'm online and you're sending me stuff, or sometimes I don't always get it in the file. So
the process of the court system are the let's say some of the rat holes that I've encountered over time. One of the rat holes that they jump through all the time is that you haven't done the administrative process. You haven't handled this before you come to court, trying to resolve it administratively. And that's 99.9% of all the cases that I've ever filed. But I do it administratively, so they can't, once I figured that out, so they can't jump through that rat hole. But a lot of them do. And they can use the jurisdiction argument on that. They can say, we don't have the jurisdiction because you haven't done the administrative process. So that jurisdiction is a wide, area of stuff that they can use to dismiss a case. The last time Yonkers used that, he used it on me, and he said, we don't have the jurisdiction because you didn't cite a federal question. But the federal question that I cited was, do judges have the right to lie on the bench and commit perjury? That's a federal question as far as I'm concerned. It was a federal judge, too, that did it. That was, what's his name? Nugent. Nugent did it out of Cleveland. Nugent said I was in prison. You know, I was incarcerated, and that I had that I didn't pay the filing fees. And he used 2 court cases to dismiss my case based on that. And so it went to Yonkers, and Yonkers says, well, you know, you never cited a federal question. How much nonsense is that? This is a federal judge. And he never gave me an opportunity to correct my document, to recite a federal question. He just dismissed it out of hand. So these are the kind of nonsense things that go on. I once fought a battle not a few years ago, and they used the 11th Amendment on me, saying that you can't sue the state government. And what the 11th Amendment doesn't say that, and of course we're going to talk about it when we talk about in Scher versus Rhodes, because Scher versus Rhodes dispels that nonsense. But this is the process. So first of all, you got to do an administrative process. That is sending a couple letters to the whoever you're suing, and be sure that you send it certified, and be sure that you send it with an affidavit. Because if you don't send it with an affidavit, it's your word against their word, and they win. So you got to serve it with an affidavit, and that makes it official that you swore that this was the case, and that they could hold you for perjury if it wasn't. So that's why you need to send it with an affidavit attached to the letter. So it becomes a sworn testimony, basically, that you can use in court. So you send them at least 2 letters, and you give them a little bit of time to respond, 30 days on the first letter, to the second. And if you send them a second letter, you can give them a third letter. You can give them 15 days to respond. Cut the time in half because they didn't respond the first time. They're probably not going to respond the second time. Sometimes it takes 2 letters before they realize that you're serious. So that's why you send at least a couple letters, and you send them with an affidavit, and you send them certified so you can use them in court. Now, if the public functionary has any kind of brains, you ought to realize it's coming at them. You know what I mean? This is a train that's coming at them full speed ahead, and they're standing in front of it on the tracks.
What if there's a crime committed, or what if they did something that there is no way to remedy?
Well, Scalia, Judge Scalia, the one that they assassinated, said that some cases have no remedy. So the fact of the matter is, anytime you file a lawsuit against a public functionary, that gets their attention. I'll tell you what, I was in Lansing. This was around 2013 or 14. We were arguing the smart meters. Mm-hmm. And everybody got up and they gave their, why smart meters are bad and all this stuff. And these politicians that were sitting up in front, public functionaries, they were squirming in their chairs, but they weren't doing anything. And they were kind of half listening, and some had their heads turned in the other direction, and they weren't paying attention. And then I got up, I was the last speaker, and I basically said to them that if you guys don't fix this problem, you're going to be sued. And all of a sudden, the chairman sits up in his chair, stops fidgeting with his briefcase, and he says, "Are you talking to me?" So that was his attitude. He realized that, he could be sued, and he didn't like that idea at all. So,
yeah, their arrogance is just kind of like shocking. But I don't know. We could go on in that for a long time. So there you go.
Well, people like Whitmer think they have immunity. They can do whatever they want to because they are in the executive position. And as the boss of the state of Michigan, which they're not, they're representatives, because we live in a republic. They are representatives. They are not bosses. They are not leaders. If their leaders were sheep, because we follow the leader, they're not leaders. They're public functionaries. They have a function to do in government. That's it. And we as the people need to understand that. Also need to understand that when the government fears the people, there's liberty. And when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. And we're in the middle of tyranny right now. People are afraid of the government. They're afraid to take them to court. They're afraid to do whatever is necessary to make the public functionary do what they're supposed to do. And therefore, they do what they want.
You know what I found in life? I found in life that most bullies and people that are bullies, they're actually cowards. They're they're cowards. So they got to bluster up and they've got to act like they're real big. I tell you what, it's the same thing. I'm going to bring it back to horses again. You can teach anything by horses. It's amazing. Horses do the same thing. They'll sit there and they'll get in your face and they'll challenge you. When they realize that you're not going to budge, then they're like, oh my gosh, she's either crazier than I am, or I got to get another plan, right?
That's right.
I've got one stallion that had everybody buffaloed. Everybody was afraid of this stallion. And finally I went in there and I started jumping up and down, jumping on him, jumping like just crazy woman. And he's loud and he's a little obnoxious. And finally he stops and he looks at me like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, yeah, that's exactly. That's what I want you to think. Unpredictability, a good thing.
Yeah. So let's pull up, if you want, Sure versus Rhodes, and we'll start there.
Oh man, you switched it out on here, dude. I was not set up with ex parte Young.
Well, ex parte is good, but Sure kind of leads in there.
All right, hold on a minute. Threw me a curveball here. I'll get it. Man, I thought I was going to be all set and ready to go here, John.
Remember that this case is a 1973 case, so it's not very old.
Okay, got it.
In comparison to the Constitution, okay? I want you to scroll to page 11. There's a lot of stuff we can read in here that is really, really good.
Hey, look at this. I've gotten better.
And of course, it's underlined, but this one on page 11 is where I want to start.
Okay, we're there.
The 11th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States provides the judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend to any lawsuit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens of another state.
You lost me there. Where is it on the page?
Very top of the 11, page 11.
Okay, there we go.
You're not on page 11, are you?
Oh, yeah, I am.
Page 11 at the top, there should be two, doesn't look like, oh wait, scroll down. Yeah, scroll down, you're in the wrong spot. It's not page 11, it's item 11, Roman numeral, the other way. Go the other way, the other way.
Other way, so, okay, sorry.
There'll be a Roman numeral 2 in the top left-hand corner. That's 4, so you got a ways to go.
Man, I thought I had this. I went to page 11 and I was
Oh, you're right.
in error.
Wrong. It's not a page. It's just number 11. It's just Roman numeral 2.
All right.
I should have started with that. 3. Even I make mistakes.
That's okay. We'll
Right there. I was reading at the top, the 11th Amendment of the Constitution. Skipping down. It is a well established that the amendment bars suit not only against the state, but it is the named party, but also when it is the party in party in fact. What basically it's saying here is that you can't sue the state. And why? Because their argument is you can't break the treasury if you win that lawsuit by millions and millions of dollars. They don't want you to deplete the treasury of the United States. So you can't, or of the state of Michigan. So they don't really want you to sue the state, and they don't want to allow people from one state to sue somebody in another state. This was used on me once upon a time, about 15 years ago or 20 years ago, when I was suing on a foreclosure, that the foreclosure was done incorrectly. And they used the 11th Amendment on me. And they said, you can't sue the state of Michigan because you can't sue the state of Michigan. And I didn't know any better, right? Title 42, 1983, the Title 42 case is a civil rights case, and it goes directly to the state. You're suing somebody in their department. That means you're suing their department. That's why when you were talking to me about this, can we go to Court of Claims? I said, you're going to get nowhere in the Court of Claims because that's there to protect the state. And the state's going to say, you can't really sue us because 11th Amendment doesn't allow it, kind of thing. And you lose, and you never get anywhere with that. You just waste your time and energy, and you get discouraged. And that's what this is all about. They'd want to discourage you. So its applicability is to be determined not by the mere name of the I don't even know how to pronounce that, titular parties, but by the essential nature and effect of the proceeding. It appears from the entire record. Where I want to go with this is ex parte Young. It has been settled that the 11th Amendment provides no shield for a state official. That's the key right there. Confronted by a claim that he has deprived another of a federal right under the color of state law. It's basically saying right there that you can't do that. If you're suing the individual, he has no shield, no protection. And ex parte Young teaches that when a state officer acts under the state law in a manner violative to the federal Constitution, he comes into conflict with the superior authority of the Constitution. And he is, in that case, stripped of his official and representative character and is subject in his person to the consequences of his individual conduct. State has no power to impart to him any immunity from responsibility to the supreme authority of the United States. It can't be any more clearer than that. If a public functionary, governor, forces businesses to close down, she has no authority to do that. So, but you don't go after the governor, you go after Whitmer, because Whitmer has violated her oath of office and violated her authority.
So I got a question. I'm wondering why nobody really went after her for this.
Well, there's a couple of reasons, I would guess, and I don't know the real answers, but I would say that people were afraid, number one. People don't know the law. People think that, there was this emergency act back in 18, I don't remember when the act was, or 19, I don't remember. That emergency act gave her the authority. No, it didn't. The Emergency Act never gave her any authority. And the very key important thing here is the Constitution is never suspended. That's Downs versus Bidwell. Now, we're kind of coming up to an election. And there's rumor out there that they may try to stop the election because Trump is going to whip the fanny off of all of those people. And if that's the case, and they try to postpone the election, they can't, because the Constitution is never suspended. And that's Downs versus Bidwell. Never.
What if? Okay, so I'm going to ask you a bunch of what ifs. What if there's a continuity of government plan in place?
Well, there is a continuity of government plan.
And I know, but I'm like, what if there's a continuity of government going on where it's been handed to the military already?
Well, the military will stop any kind of nonsense that's going on. Sorry about that. The continuity of government and the military will take control of the election. But the deep state people are in a panic mode right now. They've got to do something, and they don't know what to do. And everything they've done has failed.
Spectacularly.
So now what are they going to do? Well, they can postpone, and the people out there don't know any better. So the people will say, oh, yeah, well, the election was postponed. I guess we're going to have to wait for the election. We're going to have to leave these people in power. No, the Constitution is never suspended. It's like the horse telling you, I'm the boss. And you say, no, I don't think so. I'm the boss.
What happens if they can't pull off a legal, lawful election?
If they can't pull it off, I believe they're going to pull it off, because I think the military will step in. They'll say, hey, we've been invaded by foreign countries, and therefore, because we have been invaded, the military will step in to quash the rebellion, to quash the illegal invasion.
That'd be quite a feat, considering there's so many illegal departments, as well as such. It'd be very difficult to pull that off.
You know, the Posse Comitatus Act, which was put together after the Civil War, based on you can't use the federal troops against the American citizens. There's a law out there. And even though the Democrats over the years have been trying to get rid of that law, they could use the federal troops against us. They couldn't. That law is still on the books and still very much in power. The problem is, now if we need to use the military, we have to have a reason. Trump set up some of the reasons during that speech. what was that, January 6th, when he basically said, go home peacefully. And he was talking to the enemy. He wasn't talking to the people out there that were on his side. He was talking to the enemy. Go home peacefully. They chose not to. He went into devolution and put the military in charge of the government. So, I mean, he's playing by the book. He's doing everything as it's supposed to be done by law. So they can't come back at him and say, you can't do that.
Do you want to talk about devolution at all, or you want to stick with these cases?
I think we'll stick with the game. We can talk about devolution next week if we want, but I think
let's do devolution.
Kind of pound these cases a little bit so people understand that we really have the power. We are in control. We've always been in control. We've just been chicken to use those controls. I don't mean to pick on my chickens. But.
Yeah. Chickens are brave. We love our chickens.
So anyway, getting back to, sure, they can't use the 11th Amendment on us anymore. And they've been trying. They've used it. So I know that they've tried. That's one of the windows or doorways that we've closed on them, that they can't use it anymore. They still come up with the immunity clause, though. Oh, they've got immunity. And of course, we're going to go on to show where they don't have any immunity. In this case, particular Ex parte Young, which is we're going to go to in a second. And of course, Scher versus Rhodes says they don't have immunity if they step outside their public functionary duties, their job description. And so people like Whitmer have really stepped out of her job description, but the general public doesn't get it.
They don't know what they're looking at. And quite honestly, this has been such a slow burn of the United States and what we know and how much we're actually fighting, how vast this deep state criminal enterprise is. It wasn't like it happened immediately. It's happened slowly, death by 1,000 cuts type way.
Yes.
Exactly. So by the time we got here, nobody knows how we got here. Nobody knows how to fix it. And nobody knows the laws. They don't know the processes. And so we're starting with a huge amount of information that we have to process in order to write this. Now, it's doable. It's doable, but we have to stay with it. And we have to continue to just stay with it and chip away at it, just like they chipped away at us to take us down. It's going to be the same process backing out of this to chip away at what they did put in place and how they've taken us down through very, very, very subversive and their nefarious means.
Well, that's correct.
It's a criminal conspiracy. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is criminal conspiracy.
This has been going on since the Revolutionary War. Little by little, had they moved into it. And I mean, we could go through the history. We could go through.
You know what? It's really too bad they didn't just eradicate the roaches back then. They should have just gone through and maybe made some tougher cuts.
Well, the problem that we have is when we get into a situation where, and they had the banking system back then. Second Bank was up and running, and the banks are the corrupt. They can buy people off. They can make, hey, would you do this for $30,000, $50,000? I heard yesterday, and I don't know the complete story, but Kristi Noem, remember the person that we thought was such a good person?
I'm out on like all of them right now. I have no idea, I wouldn't endorse anybody at this point in time, but I don't believe in endorsements. So that's a moot point, I guess. From
South Dakota, I think it was. She made a ruling because she got $35,000 to do it.
What?
And yeah, that's what I hear. Now, I don't know the whole story about that, but I'm just throwing that out. When the banking system is there and the funny money system is there, I mean, they can offer you whatever you want. Will you do this for $500,000? How about $750,000? It's all paper. It doesn't mean anything.
The thing of it is that I'm gonna go there. I'm just gonna go there. we could say that it's the banking system's problem because the banks control everything, but they wouldn't if we had enough integrity to do the right thing. It's just the government, the banking systems, it's a scapegoat. It comes down to individuals.
Oh, of course.
It's a spiritual deficit to do the wrong thing. For anybody that takes money to do this sort of thing,
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
They are the problem.
But that's the problem. They put these corrupt people in office, or these people that are corruptible.
Well, look at the people that sell the farmland to Chinese ownership and such.
Yeah.
Who's at fault there? The Chinese people or the farmer that profited off of it? Both of them.
That's
Both
right.
of them are.
Well, I made my $5 million, so if America goes to hell, I don't care.
Yeah, and the thing of it is that I don't want to hear any of these people that did that sort of thing complaining about where the United States is going, or Biden, or anything else like that, or Kamala. None of it, because if they took the money for that sort of thing, they are selling out to China for the money, or someone who represents foreign interests. They are responsible for that.
Yep.
It's their fault.
Yep. All right, let's go back to Sure versus Rhodes a little bit longer, because part 3, which is Roman numeral 3, down a little bit.
I can do that.
Right there.
I have skills, John. Not a lot of them, but I have a few.
The Court of Appeals applies upon the existence of an absolute executive immunity. This is the nonsense. As an alternative ground for sustaining the dismissal of complaints by the district court. The district court dismissed this complaint, said that the executive branch, and this was a case in Ohio, where the Ohio governor called in the National Guard, and this was in 71 or 2 or whatever, I don't remember now the date, where several people got killed by the guardsmen, and they went after the executive branch, or the governor at the time, to hold him liable. And of course, the district court, which was the court of Ohio, dismissed the case based on the executive branch has absolute immunity, which is crap. As an alternative ground for sustaining the dismissal of the complaint by the district court, if the immunity of the member of the executive branch is absolute and comprehensive as to all acts allegedly performed within the scope of the official duty, the Court of Appeals was correct. So if it was within the scope of the official duties of Governor Whitmer to shut down stores, businesses, then of course she would have immunity based on that, on the scope of her duties. That was the scope of her duties. But what she did was not in the scope of her duties.
Could we still sue her for it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Fraud has no time limit. If, on the other hand, the immunity is not absolute, but rather one that is qualified or limited, an executive officer may or may not be subject to liability depending upon the circumstances that may be relevant by evidence. Now, what happened in that case? The Supreme Court told her, state Supreme Court told her, you have no authority to do that, and reopen the businesses. And she still continued to keep the businesses closed. So there was a major violation of the law, because she was told that she didn't have that authority. And of course, her AG didn't support the Supreme Court, because the AG should have told her, hey, you're stepping way outside your authority.
There was no balance of power there.
Of course not.
None. Zero. They completely destroyed that.
They are part of the corrupt behavior of what's going on in Michigan. Yes, I agree. Some circumstances revealed. Okay. While the latter doctrine, and I'm skipping down a couple lines, actually I could read that, the concept of immunity of government officials from personal liability springs from the same root consideration that generated the doctrine of sovereign immunity, while the latter doctrine, that the king can do no wrong, did not protect the government's officials from personal liability. The common law soon realized the necessity of permitting officials to perform their official functions free from threat of suit for personal liability. This official immunity apparently rested in the genesis of two mutual dependent rationales. One, the injustice, particularly in the absence of bad faith, or subjecting to liability any officer who is required by the legal obligations of his position to exercise discretion. So they have an ability of discretion. The danger that the threat of such liability would deter his willingness to execute his office with the decisiveness and the judgment required by the public good. So closing the business down, except leaving the big box stores open and abortion clinics open, and what else did she? Liquor stores open. She thought that was okay. They should stay open. But all the other small mom and pop businesses and restaurants had to close. That does not bode well when it talks about the public good. There was no public good involved there. And
you go and you talk to these people, or then the offices and such, they have complete and utter disdain for us.
Of course they do.
They look at you with absolute disdain.
If they wouldn't do that, then you would know that you had the power, and then that you could cause them grief. So they want to look at you as, who are you? You're just a peon. You don't have any power. You don't have any knowledge. You're not smart. You don't know the law. You didn't hire an attorney. All this nonsense.
True enough.
In this country, the development of the law of immunity for public officials has been the product of constitutional provisions as well as legislative and judicial processes. The federal Constitution grants absolute immunity to members of both houses of Congress when they give speeches, debates, vote, report, actions done in session. But outside of the session, and anything that is not followed by the Constitution has no immunity. This provision was intended to secure for the legislative branch of the government the freedom from executive and judicial encroachments, which has been secured in England at the Bill of Rights in 1689 and carried to the original colonies. So basically, what this is saying, and I don't think it needs any explanation, that while they're doing their duty, they are immune as long as they are doing their duty. Once they step outside that duty, then they are no longer protected. And so we as the people, but the problem is we as the people don't even know that. We as the people still run around with masks on. Not everybody, but I still see people with masks. Why? Why would you?
It blows my mind. It blows my mind.
Nobody else is wearing a mask but one person in the store. Come on.
Yeah.
Where are all these people dropping dead from this COVID or monkeypox or whatever the virus might be out there? Where are they?
Or the bird flu stuff. The only ones that are dropping dead are the ones they kill.
Where's the dump truck full of dead bodies?
Right.
When are you going to wake up, folks? When are you going to do a little history and a little understanding of what's really going on? You're being played. Remember, the only winning move is not to play the game.
Which I love that T-shirt. That's a great T-shirt.
All right, let's skip down just a little bit. There's a 3-star there. The only policy.
Hold on a minute. Let me make sure I get it on the right spot here. Got to go down or up or which way?
Down a little bit.
Down a little bit. Okay.
No, the other way. I'm sorry.
The other down.
The other down. I don't know what the heck to call down or up.
Down.
All right, there you go. 3.
There you go. 3 stars.
The only policy consideration seeming to prevail, the analysis, the public interest requires decisions and actions to enforce law for the protection of the public. Public officials, whether governors, mayors, or police, legislators, and judges, who fail to make decisions when they are needed, or who do not act in implementing decisions when they are made, do not fully and faithfully perform the duties of their office.
Now, could they hang that shutdown on that little clause right there?
Yes, but let's take a look at what happened in Wisconsin
during
the COVID nonsense, when they were doing the Summer of Love and burning the city. What were the police doing?
Nothing.
They were public officials, and it mentions police here, and they were failing to make decisions when they are needed, or who do not act to implement decisions when they are made, do not fully and faithfully perform the duties of their office. Same with Tampon Tim, who was running for vice president. He did not do his duty as governor of what was it, Wisconsin, or Minnesota? I don't know. One of those.
Minnesota.
He did not perform his duties. Well, what about Whitmer, who did not perform her duties when she was required to do so? She led the state into a state of panic with the masks, with shutting down businesses, with saying you have to stay home, with saying you can't go to a Thanksgiving dinner more than 5 people or whatever it was, and 6 feet apart, all that nonsense. Because people do, in fact, because they don't want to do the education, learn what's going on. So they, in fact, family funerals too is another one.
What was that?
Family funerals. You couldn't go to family funerals, remember?
Oh yeah.
The whole story was nonsense. But they did not perform their duty faithfully, and she did not. And so therefore she is liable for those acts of omission and commission that she did when she put the restraints on the public. She had no authority to do it. Constitution is never suspended. Constitution is always active. And so the nonsense that was going on in Michigan during that time, she's liable for all of it. And people should hold her liable.
There you go. Now I'm getting feedback on your side here, John, so I'm going to be quiet and let you talk.
You're getting feedback?
Now it stopped. It's weird. Once in a while that happens.
All right, now let's go to Ex parte Young.
Okay.
Where you were
Diddle-a-doo. Hang on, let me find it. Got to go to a different window here.
We could have went to this one first, I guess, but I think it's the other way worked better. Because that actually brings in ex parte. Go to the first yellow.
Oh, hang on here a minute. I lost it. Just a minute. All right, come here, you little bugger. Okay, first yellow. Hang on a second. Let me film my screen here so I can see what I'm doing.
By the way, you can continue. I'm just going to go back to the date of this was 1908. Okay. It's important to note the dates from time to time because some of the political functionaries, as well as the attorneys, say, "Oh, that's an old case. An old
Yeah,
case don't count." Like Norton versus Shelby County is an 1886 case, and well, it's an old case, and therefore, because it's an old case, it doesn't have the authority. No, it has a complete authority. It's stare decisis. It's 9-0. 9 in favor of the case to 0 dissents. So Norton versus Shelby County is still very much alive. And of course, Judge Cannon brought it back to 2024. So yeah.
that was amazing. Totally and completely amazing. And their argument is stupid. If you say, well, it's an old law, well, then the next step is just throw out the Constitution for these people.
That's right. And they'd love to do that, but they're not going to.
I
One
mean,
way or the other, either going to throw it out or we're going to do a constitutional convention.
Yeah.
One of the
Both stupid and bad ideas. That's like low IQ crap there, constitutional convention. You know, if we had people that had the integrity to carry it out, that'd be one thing. But we don't.
We don't even have the integrity. I mean, it's not the Constitution that's the problem. It's the fact that we don't follow the Constitution. That's the problem.
Well, if we got rid of about 90% of the nonsense that's out there by nullification and went back to the purest form of it, I think we'd have a better shot at surviving as a nation.
Okay, I won't argue that point.
There you go.
All right. The attempt of the state officer to enforce an unconstitutional statute is a proceeding without authority of and does not affect the state in its sovereignty or the governmental capacity, and is an illegal act, and the officer is stripped of his official character and is subject in his person to the consequences of his individual conduct. The state has no power to impart to its official immunity from responsibility of the supreme authority of the United States or of the United States Constitution, which isn't there, but it's the same thing. In other words, the fact of the matter is that an unconstitutional statute shutting down the state of Michigan is an unconstitutional statute, is a proceeding without authority. She had no authority to do that. But it does not affect the state of Michigan because the state of Michigan never did it. It was the person in that seat, the governor. So you go to the governor. That's why you never do a Title 42 or you never go to court of claims. You go to a circuit court if you're going to file a lawsuit against a public functionary, and you file it against the individual, not against the governor's office. Because if you file it against the governor's office, they have 100 ways till Sunday to throw you out and to cancel or to dismiss your case. So you want to go after the individual. Plus, the real thing is that the individual is supposed to hire her own attorney. She's not supposed to take the attorney general at the expense of the state, at the expense of the taxpayer to defend her. She has to hire her own attorney. And that's another thing that people need to argue and fight if they get into court. You hire your own attorney, and if you're found to be innocent and released of the charges, then you can go after the state of Michigan or the person that filed it and collect your money back. Otherwise, you pay the freight, because that's a very unbalanced system when they can hire the attorney general to do it, to be their spokesperson, because she violated the law personally. She has to hire her own attorney. And now you end up having to pay the filing fees And if you're going pro se, then that's about all you have to pay. But if you hire an attorney, you have to pay the attorney. Against them, they get a free attorney. So there's inequities involved, and the courts allow them to get away with it unless you point it out and make an
But
issue.
they have to hire their own attorney.
They're supposed to, yes.
Perfect. I love that.
They're supposed to. If you're filing a lawsuit against them individually, they have no ability to hire a public functionary attorney, an attorney general, to protect them.
Okay.
Because they violated the law. And that's what it's basically saying here.
That's good to know.
An unconstitutional statute proceeding without authority kicks them out of their job. You didn't do your job according to your duty and according to your oath of office. Therefore, you're proceeding without authority, and you are just another person, just like me. And you have to defend yourself the best way you can, and the way you can afford to defend yourself. It is not necessary that the duty of a state officer to enforce a statute be declared in the statute itself in order to permit him being joined as a party defendant from enforcing it, if by virtue of his office he has some connection with the enforcement of the act. It is immaterial whether it arises by common general law or by statute. If he has that ability within his office, if he is within his constitutional duty to do what he did, then it's okay, and it's immaterial whether there was a law that actually gave him that authority or not. But if they step outside that authority, they're done. While the courts cannot control the exercise of the discretion of the executive officer, an injunction prevailing such officer from enforcing an unconstitutional statute is not an interference with his decision.
Discretion.
I'm sorry, discretion.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Are you tired? I'm exhausted today.
Well, it's been a long morning already, but anyway, this is good.
Yeah. So and I think all of these cases are so important to, in fact, no, and just like the Constitution, everybody says no, the Constitution, no, the Declaration of Independence, all the founding documents, the Federalist Papers, that sort of thing. But if we have a grasp on some key cases that are out there, so we start adding tools to our toolbox. The Constitution, if you were going to have a toolbox, the Constitution is the toolbox with your hammers, your saws, your screwdrivers in it, and that sort of thing. But if you wanna expand that and have something that's gonna have some power, you're going to have specialized tools for specialized situations.
Well, in this particular case, in a court of law, if you throw the book at them and write down every possible thing you can think of, the court system and the attorneys will find a loophole in there in how to dismiss the case. And it may only be one part of your complaint, but based on that one part of your complaint, they'll dismiss it. So you got to be honing in on the proper arguments right off the bat and not put the immaterial arguments or the questionable arguments on the court case. You don't want to give them any hole to jump through.
Which is the case that says that the courts have to help the pro se cases?
Which case says that?
Yeah, you said Haynes versus Kerner.
Kerner, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't quite say it in those words. What it says is that the pro se shouldn't be held to the strict adherence that a well-trained attorney is held to, and therefore he has a lot of and we should probably pull that case up, but I'm not going to pull it up now. and he has the ability, or he has the duty, the judge has the duty, sworn duty, to help those that have that are pro se or that are not well-trained attorneys.
What do you think about this whole thing that people have to be a barred attorney? I heard this for 5 years before they can be a judge.
Well, you saw that, and we read that in the Constitution last week, remember?
Yep. That's the Michigan Constitution.
Well,
What's your thought on that?
What's my thought on that?
Yes.
When I was growing up, there was a guy on the bench that was a private individual that was not an attorney, and he was ruling in ways, and I wasn't smart enough to understand what that was all about. They said that he was not capable of handling court cases because he wasn't a seasoned attorney. He didn't have the knowledge, which was a lie, which is the same kind of particular lies that the government gives us every single day that they want to make a new law, a new rule. They lie to us, and make us feel that this guy was an inferior judge. No, he wasn't at all an inferior judge. He wasn't controlled by the bar. And so I remember the elections going on and them arguing that, he needed to be an attorney or he needed to be a seasoned, how do they put it? Maybe seasoned attorney, seasoned lawyer. So he understood the law. The judge really doesn't have to understand necessarily the law, because the prosecutor and the defending judge and the defending attorney are bringing the law to the judge, and the judge just has to know how to read. If he can read and understand what he reads, he should be able to decide whether the prosecutor is correct or the defense attorney is correct, and not play this, let's go out and play golf today, and you won that case last week, and so you're going to lose this next case. You just have to tell your clients you did the best you could. That kind of nonsense. That created a problem in the court system, because they figure out who's going to win, draw, or lose before you even get to court, these judges. And they figure out how they're going to twist the case and get around it. The attorneys do also. Can't have a attorney general lose to a pro se like me.
That would be shameful, John.
Yeah, then they would say, why is this guy an attorney general? He lost to a pro se.
Yeah.
And of course, that was the nonsense that was going on.
He lost to John Tater. Oh my gosh, that'd be horrible.
That was the time that I was fighting a lawsuit against Salamone, which, by the way, is getting ready to be ramped up again. I'm going after him. This time I'm going after Hathaway. Hathaway said in court on the record, he said, you got a very interesting case here, this Norton versus Shelby County, and then dropped it. And I didn't have enough knowledge back then, because this has been about 6-7 years ago, how to fight that argument, how to argue with it, and say, you're duty bound to follow that case, Your Honor. You're an inferior court. You are duty bound to follow Supreme Court decisions. And it would have had a totally different outcome, or he would have been stumbling over his tongue in that case. But anyway, he's going to be sued too, because he didn't do his due diligence as a judge. But that's coming down the pike. It'll still be a little while away from where I'm not ready for that case. But it's coming.
But
Judge Hathaway, it's coming.
But we will be, because you're John Tater.
You can bet.
So we know what's happening next. I got to show you something just came in here. This is really crazy, but I want to show this. I just posted it on my Telegram channel. Check this crap out. Hold on here. This is really weird. See if I can get this to it's got to move forward here just a minute. Hold on. Check this out. This is disturbing. Okay, this was something that was given to me by downtown Grand Rapids, this is like a homeless type shelter. It's called Degage Ministry. And this picture was just sent to me that there's an unmarked white bus downtown with an awful lot of young, healthy, non-homeless looking people thinking they may be here to do some harm.
Yeah.
I think that there's let's see what we have here. So kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, this is why would they be dropping off a bunch of people? I mean, there's somebody there with a walker, of course, but strange.
You know, Obama has not secured the border.
No.
That was her job. And now she's running on the office or on the ticket thinking and trying to tell people that, well, she was not the border czar. She had nothing to do with the border. And people are buying it. But who's got the responsibility for the border?
How do they lie like this? They I mean, that's their native tongue is lies. That's all they know how to do.
Whose responsibility is the border? The president. No matter how you cut it, the president's responsible. You can blame it on Biden that he didn't do his due diligence. You can blame it on Kamala because she was the border czar, or you can blame it on Obama. All three of them, and maybe even Hillary too, we could throw her into it. All of those people are responsible for the border. Why? Because it protects America and it protects us individuals against enemies, foreign and domestic. And they didn't do their job. For that alone, Obama or Kamala should not be running.
I like that, Obama.
Should not be running for office. People should be laughing at her, and I think they are. They just haven't figured it's just not public because we have fake news out there, and fake news is reporting. Actually, I saw a fake news report that said, Obama is winning Trump 47%. Trump's got 44%, and Kennedy had 5%.
In which universe could she possibly have that much support? I mean, what are they doing there? You know, there's no way. There's no possible way. The only way she could have that kind of a lead is if they rig the polls, which they do, or if they're buying favor, which they do, or I mean, there's no way. There's no possible way that could be true.
That's right. But it's out there, and the Democrats are buying it. The hardcore yellow dog Democrats are buying it.
What do you think of Kennedy?
Well, I think Kennedy's a socialist, but he's being picked up by Trump to fight the big pharma, and he's proved that he could do it. So I think that's good.
I like him. He said that I don't agree with all his policies, right? Yeah, I don't agree with everything anybody says. There's always something. It's a point of discussion, but I like the fact that he admitted that he was wrong on the border, and yes, somebody that admits that they're wrong over more information or what they thought they were doing the right thing and they weren't. I got a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, the respect I have has only to do with the fact that he was able to fight big pharma. That he was a battle. He's an anti-gunner. He's a socialist, and he believes we have a democracy. So
I think we just need to educate him a little bit on the guns. Maybe we get that figured out. You know, because if we just look at the guns, you know, if you put a gun on a table, let's pretend this is a gun, right? You put the gun on the table and you leave it there, and you never touch it again. That gun will never shoot a person in the whole wide world. Who shoots the other people? Who commits the crimes? It's the person that picks the gun up and fires in the wrong direction. So getting rid of the guns is not going to solve the problem. I mean, look at England. They pick up machetes. They're picking up like knives, machetes, stabbing little kids in a playground and such. What's the problem there? They left open borders. They disarmed their own people. You know, think about it. You got a dad that's got kids on a playground, and somebody comes in there with a machete. The dad in the dad's arm, the dad's going to take care of this clown that's has ill intentions. I mean, I don't know. I just think that I think that what I really think. I really think that we should be arming our population. Not only should we not do gun control, I think that the government should be actually passing them out and requiring training.
They did when I was in high school.
Yeah.
We were shooting in the basement of Courtenay High School, shooting rifles. We
were out shooting target practicing on the farm all the time. I mean, that was a Sunday afternoon activity. You go out there and you shoot clay pigeons, and you're doing all kinds of target practicing. Man, my dad had this one rifle, and I don't remember what it was, but you could, if we would like fill up milk jugs.
Mm-hmm.
And you hit a milk jug with that rifle, and that thing was a spectacular explosion. It was it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, I think that sometimes women have an advantage, especially with handguns. Women seem to pick up handguns very quickly.
Well, I think that if we would arm the society and not make it but there are people out there that have never handled a gun, never saw a gun, never went to the range, never shot one, and they're afraid to death of them. They really think that they're going to, I don't know, blow up in their hand.
Yeah. Okay, boys and girls, start out with a little 22.
Yeah.
No kick to it, no big deal. But I know I heard somebody that was talking recently, and they were saying you should add dry firing with a pistol for 5 minutes a day as part of your routine in the morning. Just get up, dry fire a pistol. Well, of course, you got to have the right type of pistol. You can't do it with everything or you wreck your gun. But, if you have something that you can practice on, so you're familiar with that thing just by muscle memory, doing it the same way every single day, and so that you could do it almost in your sleep. One of the biggest things is being able to draw without taking your eyes off the target or the threat.
Well, being able to understand how to use that pistol in a threat situation, which is scary to begin with. You're nervous, you're upset, somebody breaks into your house. No matter how nervous you are, you still have to be able to respond and react. And so you really need to practice. You really need to understand how to use that tool in your house to protect your life. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What were some of the main things that you really learned when you were in the military that you could tell people about? I mean, we're talking about all the legal things that we can do to protect ourselves, but just, military training. What were some, give like 10 pieces of advice for everybody.
Let's let that go for next week, and I'll put them down on paper so I can tell you. I have to think about it a little bit. I learned a lot of stuff in the military, but how and what we could talk about effectively that makes sense, probably I need to cover it. But yeah, I'll put that down on the list.
I think if we're going to talk about firearms, there's a lot of things that we need to talk about. One is that you've got to be competent in handling that firearm. And I really like the idea. Actually, I really like an idea of having a gun range in every community, and it's certainly every county, but every community where people log their hours. Mm-hmm. And if you don't train, you have to, you maybe have to pay for the other people or the neighbors or something like that. But if you train, then you get some sort of a break in paying for services or something. I think that would be a nice way to fund it.
Well, what start out as a child? You learn, I had a cap gun, and then I had a BB gun and that kind of stuff. So you grow into, you don't start off when you're 18, 19 years old. Here's a gun, start learning. It becomes part of your daily life. I had my cowboy outfit with my 2 6 guns and my cowboy hat when I was a kid. We were doing cowboys and Indians. You don't see that anymore. You see people on computers playing silly games.
Yeah, with no muscle memory. They can do it on a computer, but if you had to get in a real action, you wouldn't be able to do it. But I remember that. I thought cap guns were a riot when I was a kid. I remember playing, cowboys and that sort of thing with all the kids in the neighborhood. We had cap guns. We were sneaking around and playing all kinds of games, with each other. It was a riot. And then, you go to BB guns when you're older.
That's right.
Get a Red Ryder BB gun and go out and start shooting up cans and everything else that you can practice on. I thought that was a lot of fun when I was a kid. And we had the same thing. It was a farming community, so everybody had a gun somewhere, right? And it was in the schools. You had ROTC training in the schools and all kinds of things, and nobody shot anybody. There was no shooting your neighbors. I mean, granted, we're a little older, and the world's gotten a little more psychotic as we've gotten older.
I don't think it's gotten any more psychotic.
Well, I do.
I think the world hasn't changed. People have become afraid of the world. That's all.
I think it's like destruction of the family and the communities.
Well,
that part of it. So there's no real accountability. I mean, if you knew you had a weirdo in your neighborhood that was a little unhinged, the neighborhood kind of kept track of them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But instead of having something, a larger entity come in, the neighborhood took care of it, and the community took care of those things. It didn't have to escalate to wait until somebody does something that's unrecoverable and then say, oh no, whatever happened, how could this possibly happen? Teachers didn't say anything, the administration didn't say anything. I mean, it's crazy. Well, if you don't know your neighbors, though, you don't know what the threat is, I suppose. But
I hate to cut it short, but I got to be somewhere.
All right. I'm waiting for Courtenay to come on. She was in there and she said that she lost her connection. So I don't know where she is exactly. I'm hoping.
Let me make a couple of comments before I here. We have a new website coming up on board called magnificentrepublic.com. It isn't up yet, but it should be up probably within a week or so. And it's going to be kind of based on our group meetings. It's going to have, in fact, we're going to be posting Tatar Tuesday.
Cool.
So that'll be a post.
Give me a link. Give me a link where you're posting Tatar Tuesday.
I will, as it's up and running. It's not up and running yet.
Oh, that's cool.
And Wednesday, we're going to, of course, have our normal Zoom meetings at 7 to 9 if you want to participate. If you want some court cases, you just got to let me know. Be willing to send them out to you and come to our Zoom, and then you can learn about what good those court cases will do for you. So you're not afraid of government. You make government afraid of you.
All important things. I'm going to see what's happening with Courtenay here. Okay, let's see. The camera isn't connecting. All right. Let's see what she's going to do. So you got another thing to go to today. Well, I'm going to just punt here a minute and maybe play some videos or something like that and see if we can get Courtenay to connect here. So you have a great day today, Mr. Tater. And if there's anything else that you can send me to in order to put out there so that people can see these court cases, let me know. And I'll post the ones that we had talked about today. I'll post them online. So if you need to know those court cases, guys, I will in fact put them up there on my Telegram channel so that you can see what we're talking about today.
All you with computers, start a file. It's good to have them handy.
I've got my John file. I got to go back through all of our emails so that I can pull them off. It's hard for me to do that while I'm online. But anyhow, well, you have a great day today. Thanks for coming on here, sir. And we will, in fact, talk to you next Tuesday on Tatar Tuesday, Lawful Defense.
Bye. Have fun, everyone.
Thanks. I'll be right back. morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and we are experiencing some technical difficulties right now, but have just called Courtenay Turner, and she is on the line, and we're going to do a phone call right now.
Okay.
You up for it?
I don't know what happened. I did a show last night, and then like in the middle of the show, it just started going crazy. I mean, like really crazy. Like the camera went out, the sound just started echoing. It was pretty nuts. So now it's just not connecting at all.
That's weird.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's the power center. If I have to get a new one of those, I hope not. They're crazy expensive.
Well, we've had a lot of problems in the last few days, not on this end, because I can keep it up on this end, but on the end of our guests, there's been a lot of interference. In fact, we had somebody on yesterday that said that they could see clearly when they looked at some different things that it was absolutely, they were being hacked in their computer was being hacked, which is kind of unfortunate, but they're going to try to shut us down no matter what. They're going to try to shut us down. So if you want to keep working on it, we can just talk while you're working on it. That's fine. I mean, this is real news for real people by real people at the kitchen table. Well, kind of. So
Yeah.
So what's happening in Courtenay world?
Well, we just finished a conference, so we're kind of recovering from that. That was a massive undertaking. So we're, we've already done 6 shows this week, but we are recovering from the conference. And it was a great conference. A lot of information. It was very, very intense. I don't think anybody's doing anything quite like it. It was pretty special. So
what was your conference?
I'm sorry?
What was your conference?
Oh, the Cognitive Liberty Conference?
Yes. I'm letting you tell everybody else.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The Cognitive Liberty Conference. So if people want to check it out, they can go to cognitiveliberityconference.com. It was a 2-day event, and we do still have tickets available for to watch the replay. And we are working on putting that on another server and cleaning it up a little bit so it'll be an even more enjoyable experience. But yeah, the first day was a focus on the history of education, the deliberate dumbing down of America, as Charlotte Iserbyt calls it. And we talk about what that agenda is, how they have dumbed down America, what the curriculums were, what the plans were, what are their goals, the end goals. We talked about that. And then we discussed a lot of solutions and what we think people can do and parents can do to instill cognitive liberty in the youth. I think that's very much at stake right now. And so that was the first day. We had John Tater, who wrote School World Order. And then we had Tiffany Boyd, who is she has a missionary called Free Your Children. And she's a homeschool mom. She's homeschooled her 5 children, her grandchildren, and she's like a consultant to help other parents homeschool. And we had Erin Cypers, who she calls it a modern schoolhouse model. And she calls it modern, but it is very anachronistic. It's very reminiscent of a traditional one-room schoolhouse. I've actually been to the schoolhouse. It's incredible.
Where's she located?
The kids love it so much that they're in the process of creating an elementary school. Middle school. So that the kids don't have to leave. And they're almost done with that building. So that's pretty exciting.
Where are they located? Where are they located?
They're in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, all Nashville. Okay.
But she consults with people all over the world. She actually just got back from the Netherlands. And she consults people all over the world from any budget. She's worked with people who just had a little bit of space in their garage and to, very elaborate, fancy, multi-level schoolhouses. So I think that's pretty cool. She makes it really accessible. Anybody can use this model regardless of their resources.
Can you connect me with her?
I'm sorry?
I'd love to connect with her.
Okay.
And that would be great.
See if that's possible. She doesn't talk too much about the actual school that she works with, because homeschoolers are being very much attacked, especially in Tennessee. But she can certainly talk about her model and her consultancy.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So
I'll ask her. I know this is one of the first speaking that she's done, and she was wonderful. So maybe she'll be more confident going out there doing more of it, because what she's doing is incredible.
Well, I'm a homeschool mom, so that's an easy chip shot for her to me. And I think that being a little bit older, I mean, my kids, I'm 60, so I mean, there's a it wasn't a thing when I started. It just wasn't a thing at all. And there were a few of us that stepped out and decided to that we just were sick of it, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, we have we actually know them here in Tennessee. There's a parents who they had to be in hiding because they were coming after them. They were going to arrest them.
We had that
because it was illegal to homeschool, and they homeschooled. I think they had 6 children. They had a lot of children, and they actually they're the ones who had the law changed in Tennessee.
We had that up here too, and that was going on up here too. Well, wow. And it was a couple of years before it got cleared out, and then we had a lot of freedom up here, which was great. And the thing of it is that you hear this ridiculous. I mean, I can pick out homeschooled kids a mile away from kids that you can pick them out, and it's not because they're dressed like Little House on the Prairie. It's because they have the ability to talk to people at different ages very comfortably. The one gripe I've always had with public school or any of the school systems is you're basically putting kids in an ecosystem of people their own age, their own basic socioeconomic backgrounds, because we have school, you got the school of choice where they can go places. However, with that said, you don't see a lot of crossover. Not a lot. So they're basically in a pond there with people that are basically very similar to them. Where homeschool kids are talking to people who are older and younger, they don't just congregate with people that are their own age and their own level of knowledge or ignorance. So they're more likely to share their knowledge. They're more likely to listen to somebody who's older than them that has knowledge, and not just like this on their phone all the time.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree. I remember growing up, I was actually always more comfortable with the kids who were older or younger. Yeah. So
I started teaching my kids algebra in first grade.
I'm sorry?
I taught my kids algebra in first grade.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
As long as you understand how to teach them for that age, and you're not teaching in abstracts, which I think that's what you have to start with kids at any age. You've got to teach intangibles and in absolutes, and then you can move to the more abstract thinking. So I did it by teaching them with dice and pawns on a scale, and balancing out a problem with legal moves. That's how that was the best way. They got it right away.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I was doing trigonometry at 9, so yeah, I don't doubt
Well, yeah, I mean, you're like really super smart, so I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. But I think it was just because I had the leeway. I think a lot of the children today, it's very structured, and they don't have any kind of there's no latitude for them to learn anything beyond what's right in front of them. So
now, did you homeschool, or what was your school situation?
No, I didn't. I wish I was homeschooled. In 3rd grade, I went to a Montessori school, and I think theoretically that would be okay for people who are not outside of the standard deviation. So anybody who is like somewhat behind or somewhat advanced, I think it's problematic because they don't have the infrastructure. My school was very small, and it went up to 6th grade. I literally finished the 6th grade math textbook by October of 3rd grade, and they didn't have anything for me to do. They told me to go into the library and read, and I did, and I read all of their books by January, and then I really didn't do anything for 3 years. So, yeah. And then
what a waste of time. I mean, my goodness.
Public school. So, I caught up, but, I think children should not be left to do nothing. So, yeah. But, so that was day 1. And then who else did we have? We also had Dr. John Gentry, and then we had, who's the other one that we had? I think yeah, that was it. So that was day one. And then we had day two was on political, psychological, dialectical warfare. And that was really fantastic. We had Dr. James Lindsay, we had Steve Coughlin, Michael O'Fallon, and Jay Dyer. So everybody did speeches, and then we did a roundtable discussion. So we broke down the history of the dialectic, the philosophical roots, the spiritual roots, kind of explained what that is and how they use it, and how it applies to day-to-day life today.
What was one of the biggest things that you heard that really impacted you?
Oh, I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if I have like a one thing that stuck out for me. It was a lot. This was like a good maybe 24 hours of content, something like, what was it? Maybe not quite that many, like 15. Wow. It was about 15 hours of content. So I don't know that I have like a one thing that jumped out at me. Day one, they all had very, very different perspectives and different views on things. So that was really interesting. And yet it was a very fluid discussion, which I think was great. Day two, there was also just differences, mostly religious. And they were also, it was made for a very fascinating discussion. Everybody was very respectful. But yeah, it was just a lot. Jay, I don't know how he condensed the amount of information he did into like a 42-minute speech. It was a lot. He went through like hundreds of years of mind control and programming in a very short period of time. They all did very, very different speeches. Stevens was very tactical. He's going to come back on my show and break down. He went through like the Platonic roots of the dialectic, and he's going to go to the Aristotelian. We're going to do that in a few weeks. He didn't have enough time to do both. But that was like very tactical, kind of using the etymological roots of the words and how they use that to manipulate perception. That was very, very interesting. James did, he called it the, speech for Norman, his friend Norman, the normie. So he took more of like a slice of history, covering Marx and Stalin and Lenin. So it was a very specific slice of history, specific time period, and going through kind of the, dialectical materialism from that perspective. And then who else we have? Michael O'Fallon did a speech that was much more geared towards a lot of where we're going with the technocracy and Elon and that sort of thing. So then we had a roundtable discussion that was, so all of that, so I couldn't say like one thing from, that whole thing. They were all very diverse and they were all fantastic. And the discussion went in a very different direction than what I would have expected to, but it was great.
How so?
I didn't expect it to be as religious as it was. I was expecting, especially not from like the historical overview of religion, and there was a lot of discussion of the institutional captures and the philosophical infiltrations. So that was very interesting.
Huh. That's really, and what was their take on Elon?
So Elon's building the fourth industrial revolution. I talk about this all the time. Literally every single facet, and he actually left out too. I added them after he spoke. But like every single company he's involved with. So first of all, he names all his companies X. X is the point where God meets machine. So it's literally representing transhumanism. His grandfather was the president of Technocracy Inc. in 1933. So all of the companies that he's involved in are somehow building out the fourth industrial revolution. So of course we have Tesla with all the, the green cars that aren't green at all. Then we have SpaceX, right? We have the Skynet, which is building out the noosphere, the Hive-Borg mind. The Starlink is working on that as well. His Boring company is funding the Hadron Collider for CERN that wants to, recreate the Big Bang. And then we have, what was the other one? CureVac, which is doing all of the mRNA technology. And CureVac is working with Boring to create these like vertical plant mRNA technology. So just in case you're not too interested in having shots put in you, don't worry, we can give you some plants that you can eat that will have that technology.
I've got some big concerns. A lot of people talk about him, and I really, it's that promise of the tongue of a snake that you got to watch out for. And the fact that Satan comes as an angel of light or being of light. So when you hear people saying all the right words, I put the brakes on pretty fast. The biggest problem that I have with Elon right now is it goes back to the fact that he made his money with selling carbon credits.
Mm-hmm.
So and his family, his family's lineage is a little questionable.
Very questionable.
It's very questionable.
I know people love Twitter, and I'm on Twitter quite a bit, but obviously use whatever platform you can to get the word out. I support that, but he's literally said that he wants to make it like WeChat but better. So it's definitely a data mining operation. I mean, that's what it's about. I always say my favorite way to explain Elon is there's this meme, and it's a guy who says to him, like, "Thank you so much for valuing free speech," and there's a bubble over his head and it says "data." So that kind of like sums up how I feel about Elon.
I saw a post this week on X that said after the guy that's behind Telegram was arrested, and that was a prediction of the order that social media would actually be compromised and go down. And it started with Telegram, X, and it went down from that. So kind of an interesting thing. I basically trust. Oh, there you are. I see you.
You see me.
I see you. Let's see if we can make a switch here. Let's see if we can make a switch. And here she is.
Yay! All right. Yeah. So how is that?
You still got some weird sound. It's like there's somebody else on the line. I can hear some other.
Hear other chirping?
Yeah. I can hear other voices, actually.
Other voices? I need to hear other voices.
Yeah, I hear some like voice patterns.
Oh, very strange.
That's crazy. Nice job, FBI, CIA, or whoever you are.
Huh.
Definitely hacked. So let me mute you, and then I'll call. Okay. That was wild. Did you guys hear that? That was kind of crazy. I love it when they do this sort of thing because they're kind of dumb, really. That's okay. We have a million ways. 17 ways to Taiwan to make this thing work.
All right.
So they can see you. It's just this is great. They can see you. It's just the noise.
Okay.
The voice is coming through the phone.
From a different place. That works. Yeah.
So it's really an interesting time to be alive right now. And I think one of the biggest things that you bring up that I like talking to you about is that you have the guts to question people. You're like me. Like I will sit there and go, JD Vance, what's wrong with this picture? And Doug Burgum, what's wrong with this picture? And Betsy DeVos, what's wrong with this picture? And all, it's like, I hate to say it, but the right keeps focusing on the left as the big enemy out there. They're not even looking at the fact that their own camp has been infiltrated and is full of political operatives. It's just full of them. So they hide right there.
Sorry.
Plain sight.
I'm sorry?
I said they hide right there in plain sight. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, well, I think the right was created to be controlled opposition to the left. I don't think it's that they've been infiltrated. I think that they're doing exactly what their job is. So, yeah. Which is, George Washington warned us about that. So that is pretty much how I see it, unfortunately. But I agree that the right should be more focused on, their own infiltration and cleaning up the house. I think that the best thing for us to do would be to infiltrate and take over the right, take over the Republican Party with true constitutionalists.
I think there's so much fighting there right now, though, that to me, I would love to see that happen. But I think that that's a kind of a long shot right now because there's so much corruption, there's so much money, and there's so much infiltration. If they just make one call to the right person, they can flip everything and target people because they've got the big money. They've got the big money. They've got the mechanism. They've got the system in place. It's a machine.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's very true. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's pretty scary.
A meltdown would be great.
I'm not a fan of J.D. Vance at all. I'm very concerned about him. But I would still vote for Trump because hopefully, the vice president doesn't have a whole lot of power. So hopefully they just keep him because my concern is really that J.D. Vance is such a great puppet for them that they're going to succeed in assassinating Trump so they can have their puppet.
That's what I've said too.
That's my biggest concern.
Yeah. What do you know about his history? Because I've gone through a few things on his history, and I really think that all of us need to be very, very aware of his history.
Well, my biggest concern is that he's a Peter Thiel protege. Elon he backtracked. It was originally $45 million a month to put Vance in, but now it's 40. So it's still quite a bit. But yeah, so I mean that's a big concern for me because that means he's aligned with or at least malleable to the technocratic agenda, and that's very concerning. I know he's an integralist, and that whole group is very connected to the kind of interfaith movement, the post-liberal movement.
I don't know that.
Think are good for America. I've heard people say it. I can't, and I suspect it, but I have not found proof. He was a Yale law grad, so I do suspect he's a bonesman, but I haven't been able to prove it at this time. They don't release their membership rosters anymore. They used to, so you used to be able to look that up, but I do suspect it, and that would mean he's a great puppet for them. So. Yeah, those are my big concerns, but yeah.
What were you were talking about an organization or a thought process before you got to the a few steps back? Can you explain that? I lost it here, but you were talking about an organization or different organizations that are working behind the scenes. He's getting $45 million a month from Elon.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's not, but Elon has said that he's going to give the Trump administration $45 million. He backtracked. Now he said it's 40. But the whole idea was to put Vance in. He's, because Elon and Peter Thiel, they're tied, and Vance is a Peter Thiel protege. Like he's worked with Peter Thiel.
Can you explain that to everyone?
Explain which part?
Peter Thiel.
Oh, Peter Thiel.
That's his background.
Well, Peter Thiel is, part of what they call like the PayPal mafia. So people are familiar with PayPal, but it's part of Silicon Valley. He's got his hands in all sorts of things. I mean, everything from like GMO weed, and so but he's very much in favor of things like the singularity. So he's aligned with some of this like more technocratic control grid and technocratic. I don't know. I mean, the way I see it is really it's all about the AI world society. So there are different people. If you look at like the term the singularity, it's Kurzweil who has a book. He originally called it The Singularity is Near, but now he says the singularity is nearer, and he says that singularity will be achieved in 2045. And that just happens to coincide with exactly when the AI World Society is supposed to come to fruition. So the AI World Society, you can look it up at aiws.net or the Boston Global Forum.com. And this will talk about the plans for creating an AI virtual world, essentially, for the whole world. And they say that this will be achieved in 2045. And they talk about where like human governments will be supplanted by AI. They talk about where there will be they talk about how they have to rebuild Ukraine, so Ukraine can be the centralized hub for all the other nodes in the world that are like the 15-minute cities, the C40 cities, the smart cities, but Ukraine is going to be the central hub of all of this. They talk about, what else do they talk about? They talk about the 6G and how they'll use humans to leverage the power of 6G. And that this will be how you'll connect the Internet of Nano-Bio things, so that we'll have biosensors all running throughout us. But really, this is all about the singularity. So it's kind of this idea that Tatar Tuesday had of there being this noosphere where everything is all interconnected, kind of like a global brain. And and he talked about how that, once that's all connected, that we'll be reaching towards this omega point, which is this final universality, the one. And, of course, it comes from this concept of there being an alpha point, right? And then you have the Big Bang explosion, and then the whole journey of the universe is about connecting back to that final end point, the omega point, where everything connects back together into that small point. And this is very reminiscent of some of like the ancient Greek or ancient Egyptian even philosophy. But I would say definitely we don't have as much information about the ancient Egyptians. We do have quite a bit on the Neoplatonists, and they talk about the undifferentiated all. And this is where you get a lot of these kind of pantheistic, and although the New Thought leaders say that they're pantheistic, they're not pantheistic. It's a minor distinction, but it's where a lot of these pantheistic religions talk about, theosophy, for example. They talk about how the journey of the human experience is to be, we came from the source, they call it, which was the one. And it's all about this dichotomy between the one and the many. And they see the one as much better than the many. And so, people like Madame Blavatsky will talk about how the journey of the human experience is for us to go through life so that we can spiritually evolve and then become reconnected to the one, so that there is no differentiation, there's no distinction. They see distinctions as being bad. And this is something you see all throughout places like the UN. They keep talking about the unity. This is a very typical Marxist slogan, unity. We saw this on the messaging for Burning Man this year, right? They have the Temple of the Unity. And unity in itself is not a bad thing. It sounds great, better together, all of these slogans. However, I find it problematic when it erodes the individual. So when it's unity and at the favoring of collectivism and sacrificing the individual, which they do see as being beneficial because, certainly some of them are just sociopaths and it's all about, or psychopaths rather, and it's just about control and power. But for others of them, they really do believe this, religious worldview, and they really believe that somehow one is better than many, and they're, looking for this type of what they call conscious evolution. So I don't know, that was a lot, but they have kind of the backstory of a lot of these ideas that they're trying to put forth.
And who are they connected? Well, it's disturbing that they're connected to Ukraine, but who else are they connected to? Is there another?
Well, I wouldn't say they're connected to Ukraine. They're talking about they're using Ukraine. So they've done, and you can watch, they have plenty of videos on it. They do symposiums. And so they'll talk about, in the symposium, they'll call it Rebuilding Ukraine. And they'll say, we need to rebuild Ukraine because it's been decimated by the wars. We need to send lots of money and lots of resources to Ukraine so it can be the centralized hub. Well, it sounds a little like, build back better, right? They tear it down so they can build it back better. So I think that's what's going on there. I don't know what I have some speculation, but I don't know why they're obsessed with Ukraine, but they are obsessed with Ukraine. So it's more like they're using Ukraine. I wouldn't say that it's connected to Ukraine per se. But who are they connected with? So it's the UN is the AIWorldSociety.net. It's UN 100. So this is the idea that it's the centennial of the UN, which of course will be 2045. So it's 100 years since the UN was officially formed. That was when the Rockefellers gave the donation for the land in New York City for the UN, where it is now. So that's the UN, but then there's also the Boston Global Forum. So Michael Dukakis wrote a book. It was called Remaking the World, the Age of Global Enlightenment. It sounds very new agey, and the concepts are very new age. I think that's why I brought up things like, Taylor de Chardin and this, the noosphere. That was very influential on a lot of the new age. It was influential on people like Robert Mueller, who created the World Core Curriculum that became Common Core in the United States. Robert Mueller wrote something called the 2000 Ideas that went on to be 7,000 Ideas. He fancied himself quite the visionary. And in that, I've actually done shows on this where I've gone through it, and he uses the word planetics like almost 30 times, like over and over again. He is planetic.
Planetic.
Yeah, planetics. So planetics is this concept that is, I think, very reminiscent of Maslow's Politics 3. So Maslow, posthumously, they published some of his writings. So he was working on something that he had titled Politics 3, but then he passed and he hadn't published it. However, his wife Bertha knew that Willis Harman and a couple of others had been discussing these concepts with him. So she presented it to them and asked them to publish it, which is interesting because Willis Harman, so they published that in 1971. Willis Harman and W.O. Markley, they published something called Changing Images of Man. Both of them, it was with Stanford Research Institute, and this was Politics 3 was also with Stanford Research Institute, and they published this in the Changing Images of Man was published first in 1972, but the final edition came out in 1984, and then it was all about popularizing the ideas behind ushering in the Age of Aquarius. And then they published this, The Aquarian Conspiracy, by Marilyn Ferguson. Marilyn Ferguson was the assistant to Willis Harman. And Willis Harman has actually said that he himself wrote this book, that she didn't write it, but her name is on it. And it was about popularizing these ideas of the Age of Aquarius. And you can go to the Wayback Machine. We'll have more information for you, but you can go to even just the UN website or the Lucius Trust website, and they'll have links to the Aquarian community page. And that has a lot of information on this idea of ushering in this Age of Aquarius. And the Age of Aquarius is where we're moving past the industrial age, and we move towards an age of cooperation, is what they call it. And it's out of the age of Pisces. They say the age of Pisces was the industrial age, and it was very individual oriented, about individuals and competition and innovation. And they say that now we need to move into a more cooperative age. And this is a very religious kind of a sentiment. They talk about, so some of the New Thought leaders have really delineated this very clearly. People like Bruce Lipton, who is an evolutionary leader. He is a New Thought leader, but he is a biologist, evolutionary biologist, and he talks about how we've evolved. We have the bacterium, and then we move into this, the amoeba, which he says is even smarter because it has this membrane, and membrane is kind of like the intelligence apparatus. It collects the information, and that's what makes it smarter. And then we move into, complex multicellular organisms like humans. And he says humans are so smart because they have so much membrane. There's all this surface area with which to collect the information, and that makes them very intelligent. But he, much like some of the other evolutionary leaders like Barbara Marx Hubbard, talk about how we are now at a crossroads where we have an opportunity for co-creation, and that the co-creation will lead us to the next stage of evolution of humanity. And this is her little diagram. It's this wheel of co-creation is on the top, which looks a little like the I know this paper is not very clear.
And who is that?
This is the wheel of co-creation.
Okay.
And on the bottom, it is she's describing the crises of birth and the cosmoerotic humanism. And you see the spiral. They love these spirals. You can go to the Center for Integral Wisdom, has it, or the Foundation for Conscious Evolution. The Foundation for Conscious Evolution was funded by the Rockefellers. And this is Barbara Marx Hubbard's kind of brainchild. And they talk about co-creation, and co-creation is essentially where we can co-create. So this is a very Gnostic concept where we become gods and we create to manifest the future. But they talk about how we're at a crossroads because we'll either cease to exist or we can co-create and we can evolve to the next stage. And Bruce Lipton also uses a spiral. This is a Hegelian dialectic spiral is what I personally see it as. And I personally interpret it as being a Gnostic Jacob's ladder. And I can explain that in a minute. But it's he talked about how the next stage would be this super organism of humanity and that we can all co-evolve to become humanity. And what he says that the membrane for humanity will be is of course, the internet. So now we've come full circle.
Wow. Just
it's a little kooky, but they really do believe it. And I have like tons of, data points to show that. So, yeah.
So I put in Barbara Marx Hubbard, and it says that the website's under construction. Give me another one, please, that I could put up for that. What was the other one?
Barbara Marx Hubbard, The Wheel of Co-Creation.
Yeah. Where else would I find that? You mentioned two other organizations, and I was searching for this one.
The Center for Integral Wisdom, maybe?
Okay.
You find that?
We're getting there. World Philosophy and Religion.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it?
Yep. The Center for Integral Wisdom, yeah.
Yeah, gotta be it. All right. You ever notice that they have like the same basic template for their websites, all of them? They also have the same repeated colors.
I had their marketing team.
What is Cosmo
They do a great job, honestly.
What's that? What was that?
I said they do a great job. I always say that. I always joke that I want their marketing teams. The UN and all these organizations, they have great marketing.
Well, they look so put together. Wow. Here's our partners. What a great way to launder money.
Yeah, I mean,
have all these little social things, just pop them up all over the place.
I don't think, most of them have like Rockefeller money behind them. I don't really think it's like most of them are, these are like the elites. So it's not so much about money laundering. Most people don't even know these organizations exist.
Well, that's where they can put money into them. It's a great way to move money around.
They have money laundering operations. Don't get me wrong. They definitely do. These are much more about social engineering, honestly.
Okay. The New Human. To Homo Armor. What's that? I want to see what that's all about.
Homo Amor. Yeah. So there is a book. It's called Cosmoerotic Humanism. And this is written by David Temple. David Temple is a consortium of 3 people. Somehow he becomes David Temple. I don't know. But it is 3 people that make up David Temple. It's Kenneth Wilber, who a lot of people might be familiar with. Kenneth Wilber, Mark Gaffney. Now, Mark Gaffney is a very interesting fellow. He he's working on his Eros Mystery Schools. So, of course, we had Freud was Eros and Thanatos, and then we had Marcuse, who was Eros and Civilization, and now we have the Eros Mystery Schools. And you can watch these videos he's doing with Aubrey Marcus, and they're doing like a whole cross-promotion kind of operation there. And he talks about how we have to revive the ancient mysteries. And he says that Eros is not sexual, although that's the literal definition of it. And what he describes exoterically is very much like agape love, but he doesn't use the word agape. He uses Eros. And so he says that it's this radical like love affair with the universe. Now, Mark Gaffney is interesting. He's been accused of molesting and having some interesting relationships with underage girls.
Of course he is.
He was on Dr. Phil, and his justification when they brought up one particular instance was that she was 13 going on 30. So not for me to make any allegation, but everybody can go watch that episode for themselves and make those decisions on their own. Yes, and Zach Stein is the third one. So there's Kenneth Wilber, Mark Gaffney, and Zach Stein who are working on this. Yeah, so it's a Homo sapiens, a Homo amor, and what they're really talking about, and this is it's an interesting kind of concept. They say that we're going to go from, in this cosmological humanism, they say that we're going to go from Homo sapiens to Homo universalis. This is actually a concept that goes all the way back to H.G. Wells, so they're saying that now it's like when I brought up Robert Mueller, he talks about planetics. Now they're talking about universitics. I don't know what you call it, but it's essentially like, of the whole universe. And what they keep saying in this document, Cosmoerotic Humanism, is that we have to rewrite the story of the universe. And it's very similar to what they say at CERN. I actually went to CERN when I was in Geneva, and CERN kind of looks like a demonic temple, but it's they have elements of science. Otherwise, you would just the whole thing would be discredited. But a lot of it's really narrative. And what they say is very much like this Cosmoerotic Humanism document. They talk about how a lot of people don't really believe in the Big Bang anymore, so they recognize people are questioning that. So they double down and they say that there's 4 Big Bangs. And they talk about how we have to rewrite the story of the universe, and so that we can understand our place in it. And CERN says the same thing. But that's the concept behind this cosmoerotic humanism. And then they talk about anthro-ontology, is just basically rewriting what it means to be human. So it's just the idea. So we're no longer consumed with planetics, which I think they feel like they've already achieved that with the UN. The UN is kind of destined to become the centralized governing body for the planet, but now they're working on universe.
So can I throw something out there that's just kind of weird? So we just went through dumbing down our society, and we end up here at this. And they think that we're going to rewrite history based on what their opinion is, not based on anything else other than we just are globally aware and we know better than you. And, let's throw out the past, because we're going to rewrite this history to suit our goals. Am I picking up on this correctly here?
I mean, yeah, although I will say this, I do think some of them really genuinely believe this. So I see they're kind of like, and I do think it's a Hegelian dialectic. I don't know that everybody who's involved is aware of it. But I think they're the people who are like the cosmoerotic humanists. Now they're the disciples of Barbara Marx Hubbard. Barbara Marx Hubbard was very much a transhumanist. She talks about, she's behind HeartMath, which talks about global coherence, using technology to create a global coherence. She talks about Christ as being transhuman. I have a screenshot from her book in Escape to Armageddon, something like that. And she talks about Christ being transhuman. She's got a whole conversation that she has with her friend. She calls him Bucky. This is Buckminster Fuller, where she talks about how she took it upon herself to rewrite the New Testament. And so she's very much a proponent of
she rewrote the New Testament.
Her disciples, what?
She rewrote the New Testament.
Yes, she said it needed to be, reinterpreted, and so she took it upon herself to do that. And you can find that in her exchange with Buckminster Fuller. She calls him Bucky, her friend Bucky, and this was really, I think it was like right after she had met Abraham Maslow. And she said that this was so exciting for her because Abraham taught her about Eupsychian values and Eupsychian network. Eupsychian is very reminiscent of Blavatsky type of spiritual evolution, where a lot of people know about his hierarchy of needs, and that's actually being utilized by the Fetzer Institute, which is interesting. Fetzer is a whole nother character, also very interesting. He believed that he could channel the Archangel Michael, and I think a lot of people are familiar with that. However, the reason for wanting to channel the Archangel Michael, and he talks about this, there are many, you can find this on the Wayback Machine, but they talk about how his reason for it is because channeling the Archangel Michael will bring in the Age of Aquarius. So it's all about the Age of Aquarius, which is this cooperative, collective age, spiritual age. So this Eupsychian network, he a lot of people know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but really most of his focus was on transcendence, and it was through being values, being needs. And he believed that there were these people who he words it differently than than a theosophist might, but it's a very similar concept that there are people who their base needs have been met, and so they can focus on higher needs, things that are, much more spiritually evolved, and things that are, centered around personal fulfillment. And so, of course, these are the people who should be dealing with politics, and they're the ones who should be the philosopher kings, essentially. And so
self-appointed, of course.
Yeah, and so Barbara Marsh Hubbard then finds out about the psychian networking, and she said she gets so ecstatic, and she says it's better than sex, and this was like the highlight of her life, that she got to meet Abraham Maslow and learn about psychian networking. But psychian networking is very much what laid the foundation for this Politics 3 document. It's all about holistic politics, incorporating this. That's a theme we see throughout the UN quite often. This well-being economy, or the one medicine. Everything's all interconnected. So there's So that was Barbara Marsh Hubbard. So my whole point in all of that was that she is very much a transhumanist, but her disciples who've written this cosmoerotic humanism document claim that they're not. And they're pretty emphatic about it. So people you'll see videos with Zach Stein, and he'll say transhumanism is just kooky, it's wacko, he has no interest in it at all. However, and I don't know, they might be genuine, but my thought is that the people who are steering them, it's still a dialectic, because ultimately the end goal is the same, because they believe we're already in this collective conscious. So they believe essentially that we already have a global brain. And so my thought is that what difference does it make if we get you to buy into that, or if we get you to buy into the idea that we need the AI world society or some sort of technological interface to create the global brain. Either way, the end goal is kind of the same, that we are all in this centralized noosphere. The noosphere is the idea of the hive mind, that it's all connected. And that was Tatar Tuesday. So I know there are people who think that Tatar Tuesday was a very pro-liberty, individuality. I don't really see that. I don't know how that could be interpreted from his works. He talks about everything, reducing back to the omega point, which is kind of it's the all versus the many, and the one versus many, sorry. And it's this idea that we started as the alpha, that tiny, the tiniest point, and that the whole journey is about getting back to this omega point, which will be the universal all. So to me, it seems, very reminiscent of the Neoplatonists or the Theosophists. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. For myself, I listen to a lot of the discussions. I've looked into the AI. I've played with it a little bit and such. We've actually looked at and have started creating an unmoderated AI model, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. That's honestly, you want to know what these people are really afraid of? They're afraid of AI because they know that it's going to tell the truth as long as they're not controlling it. So if there's a model out there that is uncontrolled, they're screwed in a big way, because the truth's going to come out when you talk to an unmoderated AI model, which I have. That is going to be terrifying for them, because it cuts through everything and they can't control it. Quite honestly, with AI though, their arrogance is their downfall, because they launched this before they had enough perfected, because they just wanted to get it out there and brag about it. But the problem is that it's factoring in wrong information, so it skews it.
Sometimes it does. I really haven't played too much with AI. I've done a little bit with ChatGPT, really just to get kind of like very broad strokes overviews of things. Sometimes I'll look at it, and it gives you very different answers each time, which is concerning. So,
but it's a good thing, because if you're smart, you can look at it and start asking questions, and then you go and you do your own research.
Yeah. So that's what I use it as a launching pad. So it'll give me something very broad, and it's kind of like an outline, and then I can use that to start filling in the gaps for my own research. But sometimes I find it wrong, and I'll have to, correct that. But it does give you a starting point.
I ended up, I was writing a bunch of resolutions, and somebody came on and decided to throw a whole bunch of law at it. And I was like really impressed. I'm like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. But there was a bent to the law. So I asked, and she said, I got to confess, I did it on Chat GPT, the law section. But the laws that they put out there were counter to what we were trying to achieve. So I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting, but law just to be law isn't helpful. You have to have the intention. And what is it that you're trying to prove or disprove? If somebody had just thrown that into something, it would have subverted or really taken down the original intention of what they were trying to achieve. So I thought it was kind of interesting, but it goes back to that whole thing. We have an intelligence that God built into us. You got to use it. And if things seem wrong or they don't make sense, you got to question it. And the more we question things, just like this J.D. Vance thing, you have to question this whole thing or we're in trouble. Can you talk just a minute? My mom's in the hospital, and this is the hospital calling. So talk on any subject you want.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, I have a radio show coming out today. And that is, I'll put it out on video as well. I think the actual radio hour came out yesterday. But if it's something you're interested in, it's kind of an extension of some of these concepts. So it's this idea about there are two kind of like, one is a proposed SDG and one is the unwritten SDG. And so the unwritten SDG is the SDG of joy. And I thought this was kind of interesting just because right now, if you'll notice, the Democrat campaign seems to be doing a campaign on joy, right? On joy. Then this is not new, right? We have seen this at Nazi Germany. They did the Strength Through Joy campaign, and this is this idea of, it's actually very, very clever. It's this idea that we're going to appeal to our, pleasure principles, the I guess more hedonistic aspects. And during Nazi Germany, this was all about like vacations and cruises, and no different than what we see today. A lot of propaganda is done through entertainment, through culture, through music and art. And so it's really, this was a little bit more geared towards the luxury end of that sort of thing. But that was in Nazi Germany, and now we're seeing this all over the Democrat campaign, this campaign for joy. And so I thought that was very interesting to find out that they say that there's like an unwritten SDG, and it's SDG 0, which I also think is interesting too, because 0 is, and they even say this in this document that I found. They talk about the whole, the holistic, both H as well as the W whole. And this is also a theme that's kind of rampant throughout a lot of UN language and vernacular. So I thought that was really interesting. But of course, they didn't want to have an 18th SDG because 17 is very special to them. You'll notice, like Q is number 17. A lot of these, they see 17 as like a spiritual awakening. It's also, I think these people are kind of reminiscent of the Pythagorean cult, and this is, a prime number, divisible. So, yeah, so that's 17. And, or like, I think the division is prime numbers. I have to look that up, but it has to do with prime. And so, anyway, this is all, the SDG 0 is all about joy. So that was very interesting to find out about. And I think it's also tied to this unwritten Hermetic principle, the 8th Hermetic principle of care. And they talk about care is very kind of reminiscent of The Secret, this idea that you, attention goes, actually, like the things manifest where your attention goes. So you can kind of, from your couch, just bring things into reality. And that's very much how they describe this principle of care. So it's about your focus, your energy. And it's reminiscent of the first Hermetic principle, which is the principle of mentalism. So it's this idea that, the mind is all, the mind can control everything. Whatever you think, you can manifest into reality. I think there was a book, Manifest Your Dream from the Couch. And that's, of course, one of these New Age type books. And it's very much that principle of mentalism, which is what the New Thought is. It's very much like the New Age, but it's a much stronger focus on mentalism, that first principle of Hermeticism. So that was pretty interesting. And then, of course, I think it leads into what they're proposing to be this 18th sustainable goal. Now, this has not been approved. This is all, the first one is like this unwritten, unspoken goal. And then this 18th one is in the process of being proposed. But it was proposed last month in July 2024. I think it was actually July 24th, 2024 is when this proposal was publicized. And of course, it is all about communication, responsible communication. So what better way to ensure that we have joy than to eradicate any hate speech? So that's what the focus of this is. And we've heard this from the UN. Matthew Terrace has talked extensively about how we have to deal with hate speech and we have to have responsible communication, and we need to monitor all that is being said online. So this is, of course, done under the auspices of wanting to help people, and we care about people, and that we need to have some sort of, agreed upon moderation and inclusivity. That's a word they use a lot as well. So this is this 18th sustainable goal that's been proposed. So it hasn't been approved. This is just a proposal. Hopefully it does not go through. Maybe just the fact that they don't want there to be more than 17 will be enough. I don't know. But they are, I know they're doing their Summit of the Future where they vote on the Global Digital Compact. And that's going to be, I believe, September 22nd to the 24th in New York at the UN. So I'm planning to go there to hopefully see if we can protest it or at least learn more about it. So that's very scary, but that's where they're voting on that, the Global Digital Compact. And what else is there? So this 18th sustainable goal that they're proposing is all about regulating the digital space and hate speech, and they talk about inclusion in this, and so that's I guess their way that they're going to foment joy is by eradicating hate speech online. But if you've seen what's going on in the UK, I don't know that the people who have been accused of these thought crimes online, if they are finding so much joy in being arrested for their Facebook comments. So I think this is very concerning that this is where they're going with it. So we definitely need to be vigilant and be aware that this is what they're trying to propose. They're also trying to propose, this is in partnership with the Global Alliance PR company. And they're now proposing that they work with the UN already, but they're now proposing that they be like an official kind of partnership. So I think that's something to be on watch for as well. And I don't know, what else can I tell you about? I did a show yesterday, which I did not get through all of, but drawing some of the parallels of psychological mind control. And I was drawing parallels to COVID. I've done quite a bit of research on Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, which started out as the British War Propaganda Bureau. It was because surprisingly, people did not want to go to war. And Woodrow Wilson actually ran on the campaign that he would not get us into the First World War, which they called the Great War at the time. And so we're back.
We're back. Sorry. So,
okay.
All right. Sorry about that, but you can keep going, or if you want. I appreciate you filling in. It was my mom's still in the hospital, and they were not able to accomplish the surgery that she needed. So we're in this weird wait and see which way her body's going to go. But I'm quite honestly, I'm really surprised she's still alive.
Really?
So it's every day is kind of like, so
Right.
every time the doctor
Right.
calls, you never know which way it's going to go. So I kind of feel like I have to pick the phone up here and see,
Of course.
I have to pick the phone up and see what's going on. So I'm sorry if I'm
That's
sporadic being here this week, but there's a good
No,
reason
that's
for
okay.
it. And I, it's one of those things that it's a good thing to talk about. And we don't talk about enough end of life care. And I couldn't hear what you were talking about. So it's going to be a weird segue right now. But all those things are things that we need to talk about that we don't talk about enough until we're there. And then it's all, then you have to deal with these situations that come up. And what does that look like? And it changes. So,
Right.
but anyhow, thank you for kind of just, going off and talking. I appreciate that. So,
You're welcome. Yeah.
So how do you want to end this segment? And then I can stop holding you hostage here.
No, you were good. I was about to start talking about something different. I just opened it, so yeah, we can move on. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's go back to. I've got Eric sitting in the back there. So any way you wanna close this segment out, you just tell me because I appreciate the help.
Okay. Well, I don't know that I have much more to say. Just prayers for your mom, of course, and and thank you. And
Thanks.
yeah.
She's really struggling. She's very old and she's very frail. And so this may be her time to pass on and go to God. And quite honestly, everyone has to face that at some point in their life. And I don't see it as tragic. It's a natural thing that we all have to face. And so if it's her time to go, then, go be with God. I can't be sad about it. I can't be sad about it because to me that feels really selfish. If it's her time to move on and her suffering ends, I wouldn't want to see an animal go through the suffering that we see people go through. And I don't, my personal view is it's not okay. So if it's her time to go, then it's her time to go and God will heal her. So yeah. So anyhow, well, how can people find you?
People can go to CourtenayTurner.com. So that I spell my name like Courtenay. It's COURTENAYTURNER.com. And if they're interested in checking out the Cognitive Liberty Conference, that's CognitiveLibertyConference.com. So,
gosh, I had it all up here too. I think I switched it out for all of the tabs I have going for the commie organization. So I'll put it on my Telegram channel. So thanks for being on today, Courtenay. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and play that tune for our break, and I'll be right back with gray bearded fedora, Eric White. Thanks, Courtenay.
Right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the third hour of our show today. And I want to welcome on gray bearded fedora, Eric White. Thanks for being patient, Eric. How you doing? Can you hear me? Oh, you can't hear me at all. I think it's on your side. I'm not sure why you can't hear me. Let's see. Okay. I'm not sure what to do right now. Hold on. Let me just call you. I'm going to give you a call. And we'll do it this way. So there's a problem with connecting the sound today, and I'm not sure why. This is really weird. And where there's a will, there's a way. Might have to do it another way.
I can hear you now.
There you go. It's coming through your computer. You're going to have to kill the sound on your computer.
Gotcha. Can you hear me on the computer?
I cannot hear you on the computer. I can just hear you on the phone.
There you go. It's coming through your computer. You're going to have to kill the sound on your computer.
Okay, so I've got you here, but the feedback is going through the computer. Can you turn your computer sound off? Okay, we're having some technical difficulty here because I can't hear Eric at all, or he can't hear me at all. So I don't know what to do. Can you turn this? Let's see if I can text him. Turn the sound. And that's what we do. We punt. We'll get this thing working. We endeavor to persevere. There we go. We'll see if we can get that to work that way. I'm looking forward to talking to Eric today. He's got all kinds of good things to say. Hey, there you go. Let's see if we can make this work now. How's that?
Okay.
Can you hear me on your phone?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's great. How are you?
I'm going along with the flow.
Well,
I didn't even get a chance to watch the program. Probably the first program I've missed in months, probably. I got a call from a former client that had some toilet issues and asked me to come out, turn his water off.
Oh,
I got here about 10 minutes before, so.
Oh, there you go. You made it work anyhow. Well, I got to tell everybody, I'm really you'll be really interested to talk to Eric, because Eric is a wealth of knowledge due to being a curious individual and stepping up to help people in the arena of law and just generally helping people. So what do you want to talk about today?
I don't know. What do you think? I guess, on what you were just saying, I think I've probably over the last 10 years spent close to 7,000 to 10,000 hours on Cornell University's Law Institute, just studying as much as I could about the law, both from the legal side and from the lawful side. They have an annotated version of the Constitution on there, which at one time you have to go through it one step at a time to read through it. And I ended up taking probably, 100 or more hours editing it into a book, which I'm going to end up probably talking to them to make sure that I can be able to give it out before I actually do. But I look forward to being able to share that with people as well.
So like how many hours you have into this thing? I mean, it's incredible, because your ability to grasp the law is incredible.
Well, yeah, I would estimate over the 10 years, at least 7,000 hours just studying the Constitution, listening to the founders' messages, and just digging deep into the law, finding out ways of working around issues, and then studying like all of the different assemblies and the ways that people, can get away. And I found a lot of flaws in most of their presentations and that. In fact, some dangerous issues that people could end up getting into, in some cases by simply changing their passport to, no, I can't remember what the exact thing is, but so, I finally came across some information a few years back, which kind of settled in my soul properly. And those of you that are on the channel can visit my other channel that I put up 2 to 3 years ago. And you can easily put in Eric Restore the Republic, and most of my videos will come up. I'm in the process of launching a new video channel, both on your channel called GBF on BNN. Thank you again, Donna, for that. And also on Rumble, gonna see how long I can stay on Rumble. But looking forward to what God has for me here in the future. As you know, about 8 months ago, I broke my back at work, and I spent like 6 months in bed for the most part, just having great communion with the Lord and that, and figuring out what my next 30 years are going to be like, since I can't do the same things that I do now or did before.
So it's amazing how he gives us a new direction when things don't go quite right.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you're seeing that you think people should know that they don't know? And what are the things that are dangerous that you're seeing out there?
Well, probably the one thing that I see that we really need to get down to is actually coming together in unity. And if I can help in that way with my channel is going to be all hands on deck. And I'm hoping that people from around the country will, come together. I'm going to share a lot of my stories of how I've faced challenges, both from a lawful standpoint as well as life standpoint, which I tell you what, I've had some incredible miracles that God has, moved in my life in many ways. And I want to encourage people to, just to learn how they can be assertive when, they're approached by an official of some sort. And one of the things that the Lord guided me into was starting a new business in laser engraving. And I ended up acquiring 4 different types of machines to be able to do just about anything that I can. And one of the purposes for doing it is not only to help make lasting memories for other people, creating them through laser, but also to use what the income that I gained from it to plow into returning our country back to our republic.
Yeah, it's really gotten to be a little sad the direction that things have gone, and I'm sure that a lot of people feel really overwhelmed with the direction that we're going. But I know that you feel the same way that I do, that we have all the tools we need to right this nation. The people are in charge of this nation. We just need to pick up that task and carry it forward.
Yes, yeah. I guess a few things that have come to me this past week that I think he's kind of put on my heart to share is, first of all, learn to be assertive instead of aggressive. Secondly, live a righteous life. And what that really means in the simplest term is do right by him. That's all he's asking us to do. And if we can do that with our family, with our friends, why can't we do it with him? And he has carried me through, even at this point when I thought everything was, done once again. But through his strength and his communication with me through the Holy Spirit, we've been able to move forward. And despite all of I can't believe all of the spiritual warfare that I've encountered over the past just month and a half, probably, getting this operation rolling, but it's been crazy.
Well, I think when you're doing the right thing, or you're moving in the direction God wants you to go in, you're always going to have a lot of you're going to have some difficulties. It's not going to roll smoothly. If it's not rolling smoothly, you're probably doing something at least, somewhat right. The enemy attacks those that are a threat to him. You're going to be attacked. So sharpen the sword, because you're going to have to use it. The sword of the Spirit. You've got to stay in that realm all the time. So tell us some more stories. You've got a lot of stories, and you've got a lot of history.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I got the entrepreneur bug back when I was 10 years old. I started a newspaper delivery route and grew it into 3 routes in a mowing business by the time I was 14 years old. And while I was going around delivering papers, one of my buddies that I went to school with was helping his father build a house, from the ground up. And I thought at that time, man, I'd love to be able to create something like that myself. It's always been in my spirit to be a creative person. And from that point, I've, created multiple businesses. Some have lasted, I've closed, in the past and whatnot. But I faced, which I'll be talking about on my channel, when I was 20 years old. I was trying to help somebody out with an issue, and ended up facing 3 Class X felonies and up to 105 years in prison. And that's I spent 18 days in a very cold cell in October, and all I had was the Bible and him talking to me. And from that point, I realized that I needed him more than I actually knew, and pretty much devoted my life to him then. I have, walked away from under his protection in the past. But about 10 years ago, I was involved in an accident where a motorcyclist ended up hitting a curb on medium and launching him in front of my path, and was instantly killed. And that was my renewal for the relationship with God again. And from that point on, I just let him guide my life. And he's taken me through some really amazing things. I don't know if, since I've been on the chat, if anybody's ever noticed, I don't say GM or the other words. One of the trails he took me down was words. One of the first places I started out was the first language in history, which was the Sumerian language. And that was my introduction to Babylonianism and how, they were twisting words and things like that during that time. And I don't wish anybody any type of mourning any day. I I sense that God wants us to recycle the blessings that he gives us, and he gives us blessings to pass on to others. So when I introduce myself, no matter what time, day, or whatever it is, it's special blessings to you or extra special blessings, because that's all I want to do is bless others. And when they, say the same back to me or whatever, it's like, thank you. I appreciate being blessed back. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I think he was kind of sharing with me that, okay, love is everything. And that the blessings are actually his currency for us to spread around to others. And that is all we really need, is to live on his blessings if we really think about it. When I was 24, I was working for a company that I was in the pest control business. I had a great mentor from the time I was 18 years old on up that was teaching me business. And I ended up getting into the pest control business. And within a couple years of settling out my issues with the Class X felonies, I started investigating how I could, bring in federal contracts. And over a 6-month period of time, I was able to negotiate, and this was at 24 years of age, a $10 million contract for the company I was working for. And I'll share the rest of the story on another video here soon about that.
Well, there's a lot of areas we could go down on. There's a lot of areas that we can go down into and dig into them further. So I'm kind of excited to see your channel, because over the time here we've gotten to know each other, and I really appreciate all the help and the work that you're willing to do to assist anybody that needs it. I mean, it's extraordinary. And I know that you prayed for my son that one day, and it was one of the most beautiful prayers I've ever heard in my life. And I walked away from there going, this guy's an angel. He is totally an angel. So I really appreciate you so much. So do we want to talk about the Babylonian symbolism or do you want to go into some more of the law? Because I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can go today. And we usually just let God direct which way it's supposed to go.
Well, I can kind of go into a little bit what's been going on the last few weeks here as I've been putting together my shop. I had a first encounter with I live in a mobile home park, and I saw a car slowly passing by while I had some parts around the yard and that. And so I ended up stopping before they came too far, and what's going on here? So I said, well, I'm putting up a portable garage, and I'm going to end up putting a garage in my driveway, and I need this in order to continue doing that. Well, then they came back, or the city came back, and or the city came by, and he was questioning what I was doing. And at the time I had everything wide open, and he had his eyes laid on my big boy laser machine, wondering what the heck is going on here. By that time I had the building in place and whatnot, and I explained the same thing to him. And he said, well, I'm going to have to check into this. I'll be back tomorrow. Well, he never showed up. So I guess I found out, or he found out I was right. A few weeks later, the park shows up again and decided that they were going to, try to give me some issues, and I turned the tables on them. I've had some water issues here for quite some time, and I had a meter bust at one time, so I just quit using the water altogether because the water heater went bad because of the water and that anyway. So what I did was when they showed up, they tried to pry into my business a little bit. And I just basically said, listen here, I'm doing what I can with the back injury that I have. I'll do, I'll have everything all sorted out as soon as I can. You work with me, I'll work with you. Oh, by the way, got one more thing I'd like to talk to you about. And about 45 minutes prior to him coming over, I had run the water straight out of my meter for about 5 minutes over into the neighbor's yard, and then filled up a couple buckets of water. And when I walked him over to the bucket, it had a lid on it. And I said, ma'am, would you bathe in this water? And I lifted the lid off, and it was pure brown still, and grits in the bottom of the water and that. And boy, I'll tell you what, that kind of lit her up a little bit. And the next thing I know, we're going to have to look into this. You bet you are. Well, I haven't heard a word from him since then on that. About a week ago, I had police show up. And interesting thing about it was an individual that I had told not to come onto my property unless they had expressed permission from me, was leading the way of a little petite gal, and following her was a bigger guy. And the little petite gal decided that she was going to show off her abilities, and the issue was over a civil issue. So I said, "What are you guys doing here? Anyway, this has no matter of your concern." And we're just here to make sure that a $25 helmet was returned, welding helmet, even after the person had damaged $700 worth of my property, which I explained to him. And I said, I'll give him the helmet. I had it buried back at the far end of my shop, so it took me a little while to get it out. But on my way in, I have tarps right now to pull over and to keep the doors shut. This young lady decided that she was going to pull the tarp back and shine her light in. And at the same time, she said, I'll give you a little light. And I turned around immediately, and I grabbed that tarp, pulled it back into place, and I said, get out of my property. And boy, everything went silent out there. And I took my time to get that box that had that helmet out. And right after the whole incident, I looked at my video that I have on the house, and they had staged everything about 20 minutes before that they came onto my property, and then another 20 minutes later. So I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to FOIA all the records from the point that this person made the call to the police and onward. So this is one thing that I plan on probably drawing out a little bit on how it's going and how we can, basically shut people down. With the new Chevron ruling that's come out, I haven't had a chance to really go over that. Been so busy, but I look forward to getting into that once I get some things settled down and start reading through page by page and picking out what is really worthwhile so that we could start just hammering these people locally. And what's nice about it, if we do it locally first, is these people, they have their handlers, but they're not near as sophisticated as the upper echelon are. And we can take down, the people in our localities one by one as we go along, and really make our communities much better places to live, and overall continue working on what we need to do to restore true constitutional rights, liberties, and the stop the invasion of property for sure.
Yeah, there's so many problems that they'll walk right on your property like they own it, and you're just a subject of them. And I mean, there's so many incidences of this, it's not even funny. And the minute that happens, we have to take action to basically hold the line, because they're using this in a very military way, a militant way. I wouldn't say no, it is kind of a military way, because it's planned and it's coordinated attack in our communities. So when somebody comes on your property without probable cause or a search warrant or anything, we have to push back. The DNR in Michigan has been taking property. They can come on and they can do whatever they want. They just allege there's a problem because we haven't been pushing back on them. Well, guess what? They're up to 4.6 million acres in the state of Michigan that they control both the logging and the mineral rights of, and we see no benefit of this. I don't know where the money's going, but it's not going to we the people. I guarantee you that. So when they come on your personal property, we have to push back, and we got to know the processes to do that. I agree with you on that.
Yes.
So,
and yeah, we got to get these people in line. I think if we were to come together, even as a small group, well, one of the things that I learned, and it wasn't from somebody on our side either, Erica Chenoweth, she did her PhD on revolution, peaceful revolutions, and throughout history, and how peaceful revolutions were able to overcome the obstacles that were placed before them. And all it took was 3.5% of the people to have it, to accomplish it. And I think we're at a stage now that the awakening of the normies and that, really understanding, that we've been fed a lie for a long time, that we can start to move on in God's ways, in clearing up and clearing out all this crap. And I look forward to being a part of it myself. But and another thing that just came to mind was when Trump first came on the scene, the media just caused such division to the point that my wife and I, of over 20 years, our relationship was affected tremendously, because she was watching the news all the time, and of course I knew the truth and was moving on in my own way. And here over the last year, I've been able to see some things that have gone on over the past 4 or 5 years that has opened her eyes. And we've actually been able to kind of come together on some things, which is kind of great too. I know there's a lot of people out there that have had strained relationships with their spouses, and I believe he's going to restore that too.
Yes, a lot of it has to do with communication, and we've had a huge failure of communication when we're talking to people because of the need to be right instead of just put the information out there. The information stands on itself. You don't have to argue a point. Just put the information out there.
Yes.
And let them come to their own conclusion. They won't be able to walk away from some of the stuff that's going on right now and how corrupt it truly is. It's truly very, very corrupt. So what lessons, if you had a chance to tell everybody lessons or something that can give them hope or encouragement today, let's throw out some lessons.
Well, I guess one of my plans is I've got a platform that I've been working on. I'm trying to get some other people involved so we can get it up sooner. And what I plan on doing is putting together training programs in that as well.
For law?
From what I've learned, I've already got the framework also right now for putting together a 20 video series on preparing for business, going into business, what you need to do, and being successful at it, which I've got another individual that's going to be helping me with that on that. And by the time that we've got the platform launched, we'll probably be introducing with that. And I've got a lot of data that some of it I've got to recover somehow. I'm hoping to get recovered. But I plan on starting a library as well of all the things that I've come across that is well worth putting out there for people. I guess the main lesson we need to learn right now is, and I know there's a lot of people out there that have gotten into the game and have been doing it for years and have, kind of had to step back a few times. I myself had to. But if we can just figure out a way that we can come together and teach some of the things that God has shown me through video, I believe with all of this, we're going to be able to move forward faster in recovering our country.
Well, I think it comes down to all of us teaching what we have in our unique experiences that, as you said, that God gave us, and not looking for these experts on things, these certified experts that have like a million numbers and letters and whatever behind their names because they've gone through the indoctrination camp. And so the better thing to do is go sit with somebody for a while. Go sit with somebody who's maybe a little older or who knows something that you don't know. Go to the nursing homes. Go to a church. Go to your neighbors that have a life of experience in different ways. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I do. I remember sitting around with uncles and aunts and grandpas and grandmas, and you sat there as a little kid, like, and you're listening because you knew it was important, right? And I learned so much just by listening to people talk about what they know and asking them more questions. What else can you teach me? What else can you teach me? And being curious about it. So I think that age is here right now where we need to stop trusting all the experts. I mean, never stop asking questions because you can learn in a million different ways. However, I think some of the more valuable stuff is just sitting down and having coffee with a friend and listening to their experiences. I think we'd be really surprised at what they actually know.
Yeah, during this experience with my back injury, it's been incredible. Some of the people I've met, And just a few weeks ago, my neighbor he goes in 3 times a week for transfusion or whatever blood.
Is he in dialysis or is he on a dialysis? Yeah. Okay.
And while I was out cleaning my property up a little bit one day, he had one of his neighbors over, 95-year-old young lady that just beautiful woman. Got the chance to talk to her a little bit and see where she came from. And I thought, man, this, world's not lost yet. We still have people like these still carrying us through. And I asked her, I'm starting a new channel, one of the things that I'd like to do is be able to talk to others that are older, that have been in the world, and want to share their wisdom too. And she agreed. She said, yeah, I'd love to do that. I thought, well, that's great. So look forward to my friend who I just recently met coming online here in the future. And we'll have some great conversations with her. She's got a lot of wisdom too.
That's fun. That's fun to talk to people that did that. My grandma used to sew and crochet and tat and knit. She is incredibly talented. And, just all of those things that have been lost. She tried to teach me how to tat, but when I was little, I didn't, I couldn't get the picots right or whatever, and you get older and it's like, I wish you were here now to teach me that now, or some of the skills that she had, but my family did a real good job of teaching good skills to us when we were younger. So that was important. In fact, it's important for us to spend time with people that are younger than us and be interested or share those skills, whatever it may be, whether it's gardening or, your laser engraving that you're doing, that sort of thing, because you can learn things from a book. That's great. You can learn things from a video, but when you actually sit and talk with a person, it gets your mind working. And you start asking questions and you start finding out details that you wouldn't have found out that maybe can be applied across the board. So I think that one of my favorite stories is there was a gal and she was making a roast and she always cut the end of the roast off and put it in the pan. And somebody said to her finally, why are you cutting the end off that roast? She's like, I don't know. My mom always did it. So she called her mom up and said, Mom, why did you cut the end off the roast? The mom said, well, the pan I had was too short for putting the roast in it, so I had to cut the end off of it. Not that it was bad with the roast, but her circumstances dictated that she didn't need to do what her mom did because she had a bigger pan, so she wasn't wasting or throwing things away. But you only get those discussions by talking to people, and it takes more than one discussion usually. So just because things come out over time, you don't always think of everything to say. If you tried to process that kind of information that will come out of a human being in a book or a video, it's too much to process at one time. So what we do is we communicate the most important things. Then the next step through the person you're talking to, ask them questions, and then you think of more things that you can fill in the blanks on to say, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you this. Or I forgot to tell you that. And I think that's valuable all in of itself, is to have like almost an elder panel or somebody, that has experience to teach people what they don't know. Even the base skills. You wouldn't start out with math without going through basics, your basics. You don't just jump to, like say trig or calculus. You've got to have the basics. If you understand the way the world works, everything else starts making sense. But you got to start with the world, unplug and learn the world first. That's what I think. Yes. And God. So the prayer that you said for my son was absolutely beautiful. What's your perspective on God?
Well, he's everything. I think when I was 26 years old, I was going through some difficulties, and at the time, he solidified in me at that time that, you know, he took care of my every need. And a few years ago, when I first met you, I was on the brink of losing everything, and he stepped in once again and delivered me from. Yeah, I'm telling you, it was less than weeks of actually losing everything, and I just let him take control and get me out of the mess, and he surely did. And now I'm back to where, you know, I've actually have been wanting to get into the game for several years now, but I really haven't had the release from him. And up until about a month ago is when he just said, "Okay, we're ready to roll." And so I'm looking forward to what he has for us coming forward.
Well, we'll have to put your channel up so people can listen to you talk and the subjects you're going to be talking on, including the law, the Babylonian type symbolism and such. I'm really interested in all that stuff. I can tell you that I have learned so much in the last 2.5 years, honestly, just about the law and talking with people such as yourself and John Tater and Mike Bambus and all these wonderful people that have really studied the law, not just gone and paid their fee with an attorney, but that actually understand what when somebody comes against you, if you have some base knowledge in that, it really, really empowers you to not just be a victim. And I really appreciate that. So, well, I tell you what, would you like to say the prayer for today?
I'll let you do that.
Oh, you had a great prayer, but I'll do that if you'd like. But you
Sure.
You say great prayers. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very, very, very much for Eric and John and Courtney and all the wonderful people out there and people who are willing to share of themselves, the things they learn with others to help us know what we don't know. We're thankful for everything you've created for us, for your provision, for taking care of each and every one of us. I pray for Eric that you would heal his body entirely, his back, and that you would bless his new business with the laser business that he's starting, and that you would take down any spiritual attacks that are coming against him, which seems like it's been a lot lately. Thank you so much for giving us the peace that passes understanding. No matter what our circumstances are, we can always trust in you. And we know that you have the way and that you lead us through times of challenge and also times of plenty. You keep us straight as long as we stay next to you, and we're always thankful for that. We ask that you would bless anyone else out there who is not feeling well. We ask that you bless doctors and nurses and those that are taking care of others in truth for their health, not for money, but because they're truly there to serve your kingdom here, your world. This is your world, your sandbox. And we gladly and happily want you in charge of it here. Please confuse any plans of the enemy that are out there against this nation, people personally, and kind of mess them up for a little bit, the plans of the enemy. We ask that you would take the scales off of our eyes, that we would see others as you see them, not as we see them, but as you see them, as all of us small children who grow up to be bigger children, who grow up to be adults who are here to take care of your smaller people, your world. Thank you so much for giving us the ability to do that, to do good works, to have, the strength to handle whatever it is that you put in front of us, because you give us your strength, your discernment, your wisdom. We ask for discernment and wisdom in these days that we are living in, that we can always hear your voice, that we listen to what you're telling us, no matter what we see around us, that we can trust what we know and your Holy Spirit talking to us every step of the way, and have the courage to step into areas that we maybe not be entirely comfortable with. Thank you so much for being with us this day. We love you so very much. And you've been a great friend to us, and we want to be a friend to you. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So, well, here we go, boys and girls. That's that part of the show. Do you want to tell everybody how to get a hold of you, Eric?
Well, if you want to get to hold me through email, you can contact me at gbfscontact@proton.me. And I've got some medical issues to deal with over the next few days. And by next week, for sure, I should have some content starting to explode on the channel on both BNN and Rumble. So look forward to you guys joining me in this journey, and hopefully we can all come together and with God's help, bring our country back to where it should be.
I love that. So this is where we go to, boys and girls. This is part of the show. Go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States. And I would love to have a discussion with the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, about that, quite honestly. But I digress. And so have a great day today. Make it so. It starts with here and here. Even when you have bad times, like right now, with my mom, she's probably not long for the world right now. And that's okay. There's a time for us to go and be with God. And we should be rejoicing for them when they leave this earthly body and go to be with Heavenly Father. They were never ours to begin with. They were always His. And we are just here as a steward of what He's given us to take care of. And truly, we need to look at that. We've never owned anything. It's all His anyway. And as far as people go, they're His children. They're His creation to love. And we're just here to help and to take care of what He treasures. And so let's go out and take care of each other's hearts today. There's a lot of broken hearts out there. One thing I know about being in the hospital with my mom that I noticed is how brokenhearted the nurses were. Night before last, I was in the hospital, and no, it was last night. It was last night I was in the hospital, and there were a couple of nurses there, and the younger one had tears in her eyes as she was talking to me. It was very difficult for her to stand and tell me, basically, for them to stand and tell me what we were really facing. And when somebody's telling you something, even though we are in our own hurt, the people around us are also hurting too. So sometimes it's a good idea to just lay your hurts down at the feet of Jesus. He'll take care of them. If you're healthy, you're able to put your hurts or your concerns at the feet of Jesus, and He'll take care of it. You don't have anything to worry about. And then you have the strength and the ability to take hold of somebody else's hand that's hurting, even if it's a caregiver, that you're expecting to be supported by. Go support them. They need the help right now too. Everybody is in a time of crisis, and I'm pretty extra sure it's going to get worse. So we just lay it all at the feet of Jesus, and He can handle everything. He is abundantly and above all able to take care of any problems that come our way. We don't have to be afraid. Sometimes we've got to cut the rot out of the society in order to be healthy again. And right now there's so much rot there that it's going to need to go. There's going to need to be an awful lot of things that are going to have to be cut out. And I think God's in the process of doing that right now. So we can sit back, relax. The plan is His plan. Trust the plan, because the plan is His plan. And do what He asks you to do. And his yoke is light. And you'll find this peace that passes understanding, that you will be able to carry through anything. If you're feeling depressed, feeling suicidal, reach out to someone. People care. There are people out there that actually care. And I throw my phone number out there all the time, and I actually pick up the phone. So if you're having a problem, you can call me this day. And it's 616-430-4410. I will pick up. And so with that said, have a great day today. God bless you. God bless all of whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. If you don't have a good example, be one. And we'll see you tomorrow. So hang on the line here a minute, Eric, and I'm going to end the stream.